If you lived through the peak of pop culture in the late 2000s, you know vampires were everywhere. But while the world was obsessed with Twilight's sparkly teen romance, HBO decided to throw all that out the window and deliver something way more visceral with True Blood. Here, innocence is tossed aside as the story dives deep into the American South, where the invention of synthetic blood allowed vampires to come out of the coffin. The premise started off serious, with themes of civil rights and coexistence, but it quickly spiraled into a wild blend of horror, suspense, and pure, glorious chaos. It's not just about Sookie falling for Bill. It's about a small town becoming a magnet for everything bizarre, from shapeshifters and werewolves to fairies and fanatic religious cults. This was a show that never shied away from being over the top, gritty, and downright messy, delivering moments that ranged from brilliant to completely absurd. So buckle up for some serious nostalgia, because today we're revisiting the full bloody saga of True Blood and how it left its mark on television history. We open on a couple speeding down a deserted road, straight out of a horror movie. They pull over at a convenience store with a sign that reads, "We have True Blood," and decide to go in to hunt some vampires. The store clerk pretends to be one, but the joke ends when a real redneck-style vampire shows up and is not amused. He flashes his fangs, sends the couple running.
You, boy? I'll fuck you, and then I'll eat you.
And threatens the clerk to never impersonate one of them again. Then we meet Sookie Stackhouse, a waitress with a kind of superpower. She can hear everyone's thoughts. She's basically Professor X, but working in a bar. This leads to some bizarre situations, like her responding to a customer's thought before they even say it out loud. Meanwhile, her friend Tara gets into it at work, cusses out a customer, tells off her boss, and quits in a "take this job and shove it" blaze of glory. Back at the bar, Sookie's boss, Sam Berlotte, has a major crush on her, but Sookie is more concerned with filtering out everyone's thoughts, and she hears it all, from the gross thoughts of the rat race, a weird couple, to the spicy banter from the cook with the other waitresses. During all this, Sookie's brother Jason is with a woman named Maudette, who has vampire bite marks on her. She confesses that a vampire paid her $1,000 to bite her, and they even watch the sex tape of the act. The calm at the bar is shattered when a mysterious man walks in. Sookie's mind goes wild because for the first time in her life, it's completely silent. He's a vampire. His name is Bill, but the Rattrays aren't there to make friends. Sookie overhears their plan to kidnap Bill and drain his blood, which is apparently a super potent drug. Sookie doesn't think twice. She grabs a metal chain and goes after them. She finds the Rattrays attacking Bill with silver chains and charges in, saving the vampire. After the rescue, Sookie and Bill finally talk. She's fascinated that she can't read his mind. The night ends with Sookie having a dreams about Bill, and the next day, the police discover that Maudette, the woman Jason was with, has been found dead. Jason, who slept with her, becomes the prime suspect. To make matters worse, Sookie is ambushed and brutally beaten by the Rattrays, who have returned for revenge. Things pick up exactly where they left off, with the Rattrays beating Sookie to a pulp, but just when all seems lost, a blur emerges from the darkness and attacks her assailants. It's Bill, moving faster than the Flash and saving Sookie for the second time. She's all busted up, so he does the only thing that can save her. He bites his own wrist and offers her his blood. Sookie drinks, and suddenly, all her injuries vanish. Meanwhile, Jason is at the police station. The cops show him the sex tape of him and Maudette, where he's seen choking her, but the video continues and reveals she was alive and laughing afterward. With no evidence, the police release Jason, who rushes off to find comfort in Dawn's arms. Elsewhere in town, Tara deals with her drunk mother and calls her cousin Lafayette for help. Sookie wakes up healed, and Bill explains that his blood won't turn her into a vampire, but it does have side effects. She'll have heightened senses, a sky-high libido, and most importantly, he will always know where she is. The proof comes at breakfast when Sookie can taste the grass the cow ate just by trying a sausage. Shortly after, her grandmother tells her the Rattrays were found crushed to death inside their trailer by a mysterious tornado that only hit that one spot, right, a tornado. Sookie decides Bill is too dangerous, but he convinces her that he's the only one who can bring her peace since her mind goes silent around him. Bill comes to Sookie's house for dinner and must be formally invited in, a basic vampire rule. Jason is super hostile, but her grandmother is is captivated by Bill's stories about the Civil War. Later, in a cemetery, Bill tries to use his hypnotic power, glamoring, on Sookie, but it doesn't work. She's immune, which leaves him stunned. The mood heats up. They almost kiss, but Bill's fangs pop out and he pulls away. The night ends with Sookie going to Bill's house and coming face to face with 3 sinister vampires, including the bald one from Maudette's tape. They surround her with anything but a friendly look. Just as they're about to bite her, Bill appears and delivers the classic line, "Sookie is mine." That's enough to calm things down. We learn these vampires have fang bangers, human groupies for vampires. The tension rises when Bill goes to feed on one of these humans, but Sookie reads the guy's mind and screams that he has hepatitis D, a disease that weakens vampires for months. This saves Bill and leaves the other vampires stunned by her power. After all the chaos, Sookie breaks up with Bill, saying he only puts her in danger, but Bill insists they're perfect for each other, since he's the only one who can silence the voices in her head. Meanwhile, Jason is having a terrible night. He gets into a fight with Dawn because he can't, let's say, perform. The fight gets ugly. Dawn pulls a gun and kicks him out, with a neighbor overhearing the whole commotion. Desperate, Jason goes to Lafayette and instead of Viagra, buys vampire blood, the infamous V. Since he's broke, he pays by dancing in his underwear and a Laura Bush mask for his cousin's camera. On the other side of town, Tara, after being assaulted by her drunk mother, ends up having a one-night stand with Sam, the bar owner. Everyone's love life is a mess. The next day, Sam calls Sookie, worried because Dawn didn't show up for work. He asks her to go to Dawn's house and check on her. Sookie goes, finds the door unlocked, and upon entering the bedroom, sees the worst possible sight. Dawn is dead in her bed, murdered. Sookie lets out a horrified scream. It's the second murder in town in just a few days, and the noose is tightening. As Sookie screams for help, Jason shows up with a bouquet of flowers for Dawn. Too late. Dawn's neighbor hears the screams, and upon seeing the body, immediately accuses Jason of being the killer.
What did you do?
Me?
I found her, Miss Lafayette. He just got here.
I saw you last night, Jason Stackhouse. I heard y'all fighting.
Soon, the house is a crime scene swarming with cops and onlookers, including the crew from Merlotte's and Sam, the landlord, who tries to comfort Sookie. Andy Bellefleur takes Jason in for another round of questioning. Panicked about the illegal vampire blood in his pocket, Jason swallows the entire vial. In the middle of his chat with the police, the V overdose gives him an unwelcome gift, an erection that won't go away. Tara, the savior of the day, gets him out of there. His worried grandmother asks Sookie to use her powers and read the minds of everyone in town to clear her brother's name. Desperate, Jason goes to Merlotte's to find Lafayette, who just gives him a lecture, reminding him that he warned him not to take more than 2 drops. Tara finds out about the V and decides to take Jason to the hospital. To help with the investigation, Bill takes Sookie to a vampire bar called Fantasia. Sam warns her it's dangerous, but she doesn't care. When they arrive, they're greeted by Pam, an old-school vampire. Sookie describes the place as a vampire version of a Disney ride. At the hospital, Jason lies to the doctor about the drugs. Not wanting to take any chances, the doctor uses a giant syringe to drain the blood from his penis without anesthesia. Tara can't even watch. In the car, she recalls how Jason used to protect her from her drunk mother when they were kids, making it clear she has a huge crush on him. At Fantasia, they meet Eric Northman, the bar's owner, a 1,000-year-old Viking vampire. He tells them he slept with Dawn but turned down the other victim, Maudette. Suddenly, the police raid the bar, but they manage to escape. On the way home, a cop pulls Bill's car over. The situation gets tense when Bill glamours the officer and takes his gun.
I like your gun. It's a beautiful weapon. Thank you.
But in the end, he just tells him to be more careful. To top it all off, we see Sam breaking into Dawn's house and sniffing her sheets and pillow. Bill's car pulls up in front of Sookie's house, and the two have a major fight about the run-in with the cop. Bill confesses that if she hadn't been there, he would have fed on the guy. He promises to never see her again and leaves. Sookie vents to her grandmother, who advises her not to be afraid of him just because he's different. Meanwhile, Tara is pissed at Lafayette for selling V to Jason, knowing he has a addiction, and makes him promise to apologize. But the next day, Lafayette convinces Jason to try again, teaching him the right way to use it. At Merlotte's, Sam sees his chance with Sookie and invites her to a meeting of the descendants of the glorious dead. She accepts. Sookie's suspicion grows when she learns that Tara lied to the police to give Jason an alibi. At the meeting, Bill gives a moving speech about the Civil War, and the mayor presents him with a photo of his former wife and children, which deeply affects him. 3 redneck jerks, Chuck, Wayne, and Royce, X are only there to stir up trouble. After the event, Sookie and Sam grab some coffee. They kiss, but Sookie pulls back, saying she doesn't want to be kissing two guys at the same time. Sam gets annoyed, insisting that Bill is dangerous and that she has no future with a vampire. Back at Merlotte's, the trio of jerks continues to cause a scene. Royce sends back a burger, claiming it has a. Lafayette has had enough, grabs the burger and smashes it in his face.
All you gotta do is say hold the AIDS. Here. Eat it.
Nearby, Jason, completely high, declares his love for Tara, who wisely decides to wait until he's sober. The sheriff questions Bill about the murders. Bill argues that a vampire wouldn't be able to resist a body full of blood, so the killer can't be one of them. Alone, Bill has a flashback to how he was turned into a vampire by Lorena, who let him see his family one last time before telling him his old life was over. Tara's day gets worse when she catches Jason having sex with another girl in the alley. Sookie, returning from her failed date, arrives home to find her grandmother on the kitchen floor, dead in a pool of blood. She freezes, speechless. Sookie is in shock, staring at her grandmother's body on the kitchen floor. Bill appears from behind and holds her to calm her down. Just then, Sam walks him through the front door. Bill grabs him by the throat and pins him to the wall, but Sam explains he was just checking to see if she got home okay. The next day, during the wake at her house, Sookie freaks out when a neighbor tries to take the last pie her grandmother ever made from the fridge. Tara and Lafayette take her to her room, telling her not to worry about pleasing everyone else. Sookie confesses that she feels nothing. Jason, still high on V, arrives completely clueless. He bursts into Sookie's room, yells that it's her fault, and slaps her across the face. Tara throws him out, telling him she doesn't even recognize him anymore. Outside, Andy practically accuses Jason of killing his own grandmother. Jason, with unnatural strength, shoves the deputy to the ground. The funeral is a total disaster. Jason invites a distant uncle Sookie hates. During the eulogy, Sookie can't block out people's cruel thoughts and screams for everyone to shut up before running off.
You're sleeping with your grandmother's killer.
Dead because of you.
Shut up! All of you just shut the fuck up!
Jason tries to apologize, but she wants nothing to do with him. Tara's mother, Letty Mae, shows up, gives a speech about the grandmother she barely knew, and then asks for money for an exorcism, claiming a demon makes her drink. Tara, furious, tells her that Sookie's grandmother was more of a mother to her than Letty Mae ever was. Sam drives Sookie home, but she asks to be alone. With nowhere to go, Tara takes Sam to her motel room, and they have Afterward, feeling guilty about her mother's situation, she leaves him there. Alone at home, Sookie finally breaks down. She takes the pie from the fridge and sobs compulsively as she eats every last piece. In the middle of the night, Sookie runs to Bill's house. He hears her coming, sweeps her into his arms, and they finally make love. When Bill's fangs come out, he tries to hide them, but Sookie surprises him. She wants him to bite her. Bill sinks his teeth into her neck and begins to drink her blood. After finally giving herself to Bill, body and soul, Sookie is relaxing in the tub with him and feels comfortable enough to share a dark secret. As a child, she was abused by her Uncle Bartlett. As she opens up, Bill's face turns menacing, like the Joker planning something evil. Meanwhile, Jason is jonesing for more V, but Lafayette sends him packing, saying he no longer sells to irresponsible people. Desperate, Jason even tries to steal his dead grandmother's jewelry, but Sookie arrives and stops him. Tara tries to make amends with Sam, but family drama calls. Her mother, Letty Mae, is causing a huge scene at the bank, accusing the manager of prejudice for not giving her a loan for her exorcism. The scene is so absurd, she even offers herself to the guy in exchange for the cash. With no other choice, Tara agrees to pay for her mother's treatment. At rock bottom, Jason ends up at Fantasia, the vampire nightclub, and makes the mistake of trying to buy V from the bartender. A girl named Amy Burley overhears, pretends to be his girlfriend, and gets him out of trouble, promising to get him what he wants. Tara and her mother head into the woods to meet a so-called Miss Jeanette, a witch who lives in a rundown bus. After paying $400, Letty Mae finally has her demon exorcised, but before they leave, the psychic drops a bombshell. Tara has a demon too, and it's worse than her mother's. At Merlotte's, Sookie's mood gives away what happened the night before, and everyone, especially Sam, judges her decision. She tells them all to mind their own business. Later, Bill goes hunting and takes justice into his own hands. He kills Uncle Bartlett and dumps his body in the river. The bar is invaded by a trio of troublemaking vampires, but Bill shows up and saves the day, agreeing to go with them and leave the humans alone, which breaks Sookie's heart. To cap off the night, 3 rednecks plan to burn down the vampire's nest. Sookie tries to ask Sam for help, but he refuses to get involved. Then the house catches fire. Sookie runs over, only to see firefighters pulling 4 charred coffins from the wreckage. Sookie spends the morning completely bummed out, thinking Bill has been turned into a vampire barbecue. Jason wakes up with Amy and discovers they didn't have just a wild V trip. The mood between them deepens when he tells her about the tragic death of his parents. Meanwhile, Tara is shocked by her mother's miraculous recovery, but ends up in a huge fight with Sookie over Bill. That night, Sookie goes to leave flowers on Bill's grave, and on her way back, a creature bursts out of the ground and grabs her. After the initial shock, she realizes it's Bill himself, alive and well. They missed each other so much they make love right there on the cemetery ground. The next day, Jason introduces Amy to the gang at Merlotte's, and she even lands a job as a waitress. Sookie tries to warn the new girl about Jason's womanizing reputation, but Amy suggests she not be so quick to judge him. Tara is losing it. She fights with her mom, then fights with Sam after sleeping with him again, calling him a racist. Sookie and Bill end up babysitting Arlene's kids, and in the middle of a fake flat tire, Renee proposes to Arlene. The medical examiner identifies the 4th body from the fire. It was his assistant, a secret fangbanger. The police question Sam, and Sheriff Andy wants to know why he saw him running naked in the woods. Sam makes up a bizarre story about coming from a family of naturalists. Obviously, Andy investigates and finds out it's all a lie. Amy's dark side emerges when she says she needs more V. Since Lafayette has cut them off, they follow him and discover he gets his blood from a vampire named Eddie in exchange for favors. Sookie's night gets crazy too. Eric, the vampire boss, appears in Bill's bathtub and says he requires her services. After they kidnap poor Eddie, Sookie reluctantly goes to Fantasia. Eric wants her to use her telepathy to find out who stole $60,000. She discovers the thief is a vampire, and at that exact moment, the bartender Long Shadow lunges at her, and Bill, moving faster than the Flash, rips a beer tap from the bar and the vampire from behind.
Enough.
Thank you.
Blood sprays everywhere. Sookie is drenched in it, and Eric watches the whole thing like it's a soap opera. After a quick cleanup, Eric warns Bill, killing a vampire in front of humans comes with a price. The bill is coming due, and it does. Sookie gets home to a horror movie scene. It's a very clear message from the vampire mafia. Meanwhile, Jason and Amy are on the run with the vampire Eddie tied up in the back of their truck. Jason is panicking, but Amy is cool as a cucumber, acting like a veteran kidnapper. They take Eddie to the basement, and Amy convinces Jason to use more V. The two have sex in front of the prisoner, who bleeds while tied to a chair. Jason's situation just keeps getting worse. He's so high on V at work that he straight up attacks Renee. Later at home, he ends up having a surprisingly normal conversation with Eddie. The vampire tells him his story and warns Jason that Amy is a psycho, man. Get out. Jason is shaken, but the seed of doubt has been planted. He even brings his hostage some true blood. At Merlotte's, Sookie is pissed and takes it out on Sheriff Andy, demanding he find the killer immediately. Amy, playing the Good Samaritan, calms Sookie down, and the two have a chat. Sookie ends up concluding that Amy is too good for her brother, if only she knew. Bill's night also sours. Eric shows up at his house with backup. It's time for his trial. Bill goes to the bar to say goodbye to Sookie, explaining he's going to be judged for killing Long Shadow. The farewell is heartbreaking. Sookie decides to hide out at Bill's house, thinking no one will look for her there. The little dog that always hangs around the bar shows up at her door, and she lets him in. In the middle of the night, she wakes up feeling a weight on her feet. She sits up and comes face to face, not with the dog, but with Sam, completely naked in her bed. Their screams were probably heard in the next state. Sookie wakes with a start and immediately accuses the naked Sam of being her grandmother's killer. But hold on, Sam explains he's not a murderer. He's a shapeshifter. Turns out he was using the form of the Merlotte's dog to keep an eye on Sookie and protect her. What a plot twist, right? Meanwhile, Tara gets the $800 from Sam and goes to her exorcism. The so-called Miss Jeanette spits some liquid in her face and gives her snake juice to drink, all to cast out the demon. At Jason's house, Amy finds a bottle of True Blood that Jason gave to Eddie and freaks out, starting a huge fight about trust. Later, Sookie and Sam talk about his powers, and she ends up comparing him to a werewolf. Sam gets pissed and says he doesn't want to be associated with those creatures, confirming that werewolves also exist in this universe. Back at the exorcism, Tara throws up what Miss Jeanette calls the demon, which takes the form of Tara as a child. The medium tells her to kill the demon, and Tara, terrified, stabs her own childhood self.
Oh Mama, please. Don't hurt me.
One of you must die.
The next day, overjoyed, she goes to tell her mother she's been cured, but when she stops at a pharmacy, she comes face to face with Miss Jeanette working at the checkout counter. The whole thing was a scam. The snake juice was just a laxative with a hallucinogen. Her faith is shattered. Meanwhile, Bill is awaiting his trial. The punishment for killing Longshadow was supposed to be 5 years chained in a coffin, but the magister decides to get creative. His sentence is to create a new vampire. They bring in a teenager named Jessica, and Bill, devastated, is forced to bite the girl. To make things worse, Jason and Amy, who had promised to keep Eddie as a pet, end up fighting. Jason wants to let him go, but Amy, showing her psycho side, simply grabs a stake and kills Eddie right in front of him. The episode ends in chaos. Tara, drunk, crashes her car. Sookie is attacked by the real killer at Merlotte's, and the engagement party turns into a horror show. Bill is literally buried alive with the newbie Jessica, waiting for her transformation to finish. Meanwhile, Sookie is at home, terrified, with Sam acting as her bodyguard. She tells him the killer's memories were a red and black blur, but she remembers a name on the victim's name tag, Cindy, from a place with pie in the name. Sam gets it immediately and decides to go with her to investigate. Elsewhere in town, Tara is arrested for drunk driving. Jason and Amy are cleaning up the bloody mess from Eddie's death. Amy, a master manipulator, convinces Jason that Eddie was a monster and that they can't let a vampire ruin their beautiful love, even as they sit in a pool of blood. Later, Jason tries to put a stop to it and tells her to throw out all the V, but Amy prepares a romantic dinner and convinces him to use one last drop to close the circle. Sookie and Sam's investigation leads them to a diner called Big Patty's Pie House. There, they learn that Cindy was indeed murdered and had a missing brother, Drew Marshall. The police agree to send a photo of the guy to the Bon Temps station. That same day, Tara's mother goes to the jail, but not to post bail. She simply abandons her daughter, saying Tara is a bad influence. What a mom, huh? That night, Jason and Amy are on a major V trip having a psychedelic dream, but in the real world, a hooded figure enters the house and strangles Amy with a belt. Jason wakes up next to her body, completely confused, and calls the police. And just when Tara hits rock bottom, a mysterious woman named Maryanne shows up and posts her bail. To top it all off, Jason, in shock, confesses to all the murders, thinking he's the culprit. At the police station, the photo of Drew Marshall finally arrives. A secretary accidentally covers the paper with a stack of files, but we can see it. The killer is Renee. With Jason in jail and already giving his belongings to Renee, the irony, Sookie visits him and tells him to shut up because she's close to catching the real killer. Tara, on the other hand, wakes up in a luxurious mansion, courtesy of her new fairy godmother, Maryanne. Back in Bon Temps, Sookie's car conveniently breaks down, and who shows up to help? Renee, of course. He offers her a ride, and we see that he cut the engine wires. Criminal mastermind. At Arlene's house, her kids find a box of Renee's things, including a Cajun dialect tape. Arlene connects the dots, and panic sets in. At Merlotte's, Sam finds Renee's vest and recognizes the scent from Dawn's crime scene. He rushes off to save Sookie. Too late. At Sookie's house, Renee can no longer hide his murderous thoughts. Sookie finally figures it all out and has flashbacks of him killing her grandmother. The chase begins. Sookie runs to the cemetery and Renee follows. Bill, sensing the danger, runs out into the sun to help and starts to burn. In the middle of the fight, Sam appears as a dog and bites Renee. Renee beats the dog, which transforms back into Sam, naked and battered. Shocked, Renee starts kicking Sam, yelling, "Freak!" Sookie uses the distraction, grabs a shovel, and hits Renee. He falls but grabs her leg. She screams, and in a final blow, hits him in the neck with the shovel, killing the bastard.
Fucking bitch!
After the chaos, Sookie and Sam bury the burning Bill to save him. Later, Jason is released. Kara leaves with Maryanne, who gives Sam a sinister look, and Lafayette is attacked by something in the bar's alley. Bill appears at Sookie's door, healed, and they reconcile. The episode ends with a series of cliffhangers. Jason becomes a religious convert, Eric leaves Jessica with Bill, and in the final scene, Sookie and Tara find a severed leg in the back of Andy's car. Welcome to Bon Temps. The entire town of Bon Temps is shaken by the murder of Miss Jeanette, Tara's fake exorcist, and she's afraid to tell the police that she knew the woman. The reason? If her mother, Letty Mae, finds out the exorcism was a fake, she might relapse into alcoholism. Of course, it doesn't work. Tara ends up confessing everything at the police station, and her mother shows up just in time to hear the whole story. When Tara is released, Maryanne arrives to give her a ride and takes the opportunity to tell Letty Mae off. Meanwhile, Sookie gets the news that her uncle Bartlett, the one who abused her, is dead. Elsewhere, Lafayette has been kidnapped and is being held in some kind of bunker with other people, including Royce, one of the rednecks who torched some vampires a few episodes back. Jason, however, is doing great. He impresses Steve and Sarah Newlin, the leaders of an anti-vampire church, and gets invited to a leadership retreat. Sam is in trouble too. Maryanne's presence makes him uncomfortable, and a flashback reveals the two had a thing when he was 17 and stole $100,000 from her. The biggest plot twist comes when Sookie finds out it was Bill who killed Uncle Bartlett. He says he did it for love because he couldn't let the guy get away with it. Sookie forgives him, and the two have a major reconciliation. In the end, we discover it's Eric who's holding Lafayette prisoner. To top it all off, Royce tries to escape, and Eric literally tears him in half, showering Lafayette in blood. Heavy. After making up, Sookie tries to convince Bill to be nicer to Jessica. After all, she's just a teenager. Bill explains that a newborn vampire is dangerous and can't control her impulses, but he still tries to please Sookie and takes Jessica clothes shopping. At the store, he runs into Eric, who didn't show up there by chance. He's come to call in a favor. Bill and Sookie must help him find a missing vampire sheriff in Dallas named Godric. Meanwhile, Tara learns more about Eggs's criminal past, and he makes it clear he's into her. Elsewhere, on the way to the Fellowship of the Sun conference, Jason becomes best buds with an anti-vampire fanatic named Luke, but the friendship quickly sours when Luke gets jealous of Jason's growing favor with the leaders, Steve and Sarah, and tells him he doesn't belong there. Maryanne decides to show up at Merlotte's, and Sam, obviously, is not happy about it. He tries to kick her out, but she reminds him of the money he stole, so she orders practically everything on the menu. Later, the bar's customers start acting aggressive and strange. Maryanne's body begins to vibrate, and out of nowhere, Sam turns into a dog. She warns him she can do that whenever she wants. In the basement of Fantasia, a battered Lafayette begs Eric to turn him into a vampire instead of killing him. Eric says he'll think about it, and in the meantime tells Pam to feed on him. Jessica sees her parents on TV, who think she's missing, and gets homesick. Sookie, with the best of intentions, takes her to see her family on the condition that she doesn't get out of the car. Jessica ignores the deal, goes into the house, and attacks her abusive father. Bill arrives in the nick of time, glamours everyone, and explodes at Sookie, yelling that now he has to clean up her mess. The fight between Bill and Sookie boils over after the incident with Jessica. They have a huge argument, and Sookie gets out of the car in the middle of the highway. As she walks, she's attacked by a bizarre creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man. The creature tears into her back, leaving her paralyzed and poisoned. Bill is so desperate that he runs to Eric for help. With the assistance of a woman named Dr. Ludwig, Sookie is saved. Eric sends his crew to investigate the attack site, and they come back with a strange piece of information. The footprints are human, but the scent is that of a beast. At the Fellowship of the Sun camp, Jason opens up to Sarah. He vents about the deaths of his grandmother and Amy, and the two connect even more when she reveals she suspects vampires killed her sister. While recovering at Fantasia by drinking Bill's blood, Sookie discovers that Lafayette has been imprisoned in the basement the whole time. Cleverly, she uses the situation to her advantage and negotiates with Eric, her cousin's freedom in exchange for her help finding the vampire Godric in Dallas. Tara and Eggs' relationship hits a rough patch at one of Maryanne's parties, where the guests become strangely sexual with one another. To make matters worse, Bill and Sookie catch Jessica and Hoyt making out. Sam, after shooting down Daphne, decides to disappear for a while, but the two end up making peace. And then comes the bombshell. The camera focuses on Daphne's back, and she has scratches identical to the ones Sookie suffered in the creature attack. Suspicious, right? Bill finally kicks Hoyt out, which sends Jessica into a rage. Sookie, ever the peacemaker, suggests Jessica join them on their trip to Dallas. Bill reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Tara takes Sookie up on her offer to move in. Maryanne pretends to be thrilled for her, but her face tells a different story. Over at the Fellowship of the Sun Institute, Jason is pranked by a jealous Luke.
I can smell
smell that hot blood just under your skin. And cowboy.
But Jason gets the last laugh. He's invited to move out of the dorms and into the Newlin's mansion. The attraction between him and Sarah continues to grow, and Steve even offers him a spot in his private army, the Soldiers of the Sun. We learn that Miss Jeanette, the woman found in Andy's car, was killed by the same creature that attacked Sookie. After leaving things on shaky ground with Sam, Sookie arrives in Dallas with Bill and Jessica. They fly Anubis Air, yes, an airline for vampires. Upon arrival, a limo driver tries to kidnap Sookie, but Bill stops him and uses his powers to learn the order came from the Fellowship of the Sun. Meanwhile, Lafayette, still bruised and traumatized from his time in Fantasia's basement, gets a visit from Eric. The vampire offers his blood to heal an infection. Though wary that it's just a way to track him, Lafayette accepts. Sookie, Bill, and Jessica check into the hotel, a lavish hotel designed exclusively for vampires. Back in Bon Temps, Tara is celebrating her birthday alone, until Maryanne and Eggs show up for a surprise party. Sam arrives with a gift from Tara's mother and meets Daphne, who cryptically says, "I know what you are." Maryanne suddenly tosses the gift in the trash. The party gets wilder, and Maryanne heads into the woods to perform a ritual that fills everyone with the same bizarre sexual energy as the previous party. Her hands transform into claws, proving she is the bull-headed monster. In the midst of it all, Tara and Eggs have wild At the hotel, Sookie is stunned to meet Barry, a bellboy who can also read minds. Tara's birthday party is still in full swing when Sam follows Daphne into the woods. There, she reveals her secret. She's a shapeshifter just like him. Things get hot and heavy, but they're interrupted. Back in Dallas, Barry warns Sookie that if any vampire finds out about her powers, they'll both be in serious trouble. After Bill scolds Jessica for trying to order a human from the hotel's room service menu, she calls Hoyt, and they spend the night talking about comic books. At the Fellowship of the Sun Institute, Jason and the other recruits endure grueling training with Sarah and a hard-ass drill sergeant. When Luke fails an exercise, Jason helps him and is praised for being a true soldier of God. Meanwhile, Maryanne continues to stir up trouble in Bon Temps. She tries to move into Sookie's house with Tara, who refuses. In retaliation, Maryanne casts a spell on the patrons at Merlotte's, causing them all to turn on Tara.
Your game, we're way behind. Marlene, don't make me fire you for talking trash.
You be nice to her, Sam. It's Tara's fault anyway.
It's my fault.
Sleeping where you eat.
Feeling alone and isolated, Tara finally caves and invites Maryanne to live there. To solve the mystery of Godric's disappearance, Sookie volunteers to infiltrate the Fellowship of the Sun. Bill hates the idea. Under pressure, Eric reveals why he cares so much. Centuries ago, Godric saved him from death by turning him into a vampire. Back at the camp, Steve shows Jason a bunker filled with weapons to prove the mission is serious. After witnessing a fight between Steve and Sarah, Sarah rewards Jason for his hard work with a little favor in the hot tub. Sookie is saddened to learn that Barry has quit his job at the hotel. Bill tries to comfort her, and just as they are about to make love, a mysterious woman appears in the hallway. A vampire named Isabel shows up at the hotel with her human boyfriend Hugo. And guess what? Hugo is set to be Sookie's partner for the infiltration mission into the Fellowship of the Sun. At the church, they are welcomed by Sarah and Steve Newlin. Using her telepathy, Sookie instantly figures out the Newlins are holding a vampire captive in their basement, but she also discovers something worse. Someone has ratted them out. Sookie and Hugo are captured and dragged to the basement. Meanwhile, seething with jealousy, Eric summons Lorena, Bill's maker, to break the couple up. Bill senses Sookie's fear, but when he goes to save her, he comes face to face with Lorena, who traps him and prevents him from helping. Sam and Daphne continue to grow closer, even going for a run as shapeshifters. Andy Bellefleur, always in the wrong place at the wrong time, chases after them, thinking he recognizes the animal from one of Maryanne's parties. Speaking of whom, Maryanne sends Tara and Eggs on an errand out of town. Along the way, Eggs gets a strange feeling and ends up finding a spot in the woods with bloody clothes and the remains of a bonfire. They return to Sookie's house to find it completely trashed, with an full swing in the yard. After his mother cancels his cell phone over the late-night calls, Hoyt finally admits his girlfriend is a vampire and drives to Dallas to see Jessica. Andy questions Lafayette about a murder, triggering a PTSD attack in the cook. Later, Pam visits and orders him to start selling V again. Jason and Luke are tasked with building a cross-shaped platform for a ceremony called Meeting the Sun. A frantic Sarah seeks out Jason, claiming Steve has gone insane and wants to start a war. She convinces him they were meant for each other, and they have sex on the church balcony. The night ends with Daphne leading Sam into a trap in the woods. He's dragged into Maryanne's ritual, where she, with Daphne's help, dons the bull mask and prepares to sacrifice him. Still drunk, Andy Bellefleur chases a pig through the woods and stumbles upon Maryanne's orgy. He draws his gun and fires into the ground, distracting the crowd and giving Sam a chance to escape. Maryanne is furious and takes off after him at full speed, but Sam spots an owl, gets a brilliant idea, and transforms into one himself, soaring into the sky and leaving the villain behind. In the chaos, Andy gets his arm broken by Terry, who is still under Maryanne's spell. Outside the church, Eric and Isabel are on watch, unaware of the drama inside. He asks why she enjoys being with a human, and Isabel replies it's like a scientific experiment to watch Hugo grow old. She teases Eric, saying he has his eye on Sookie, but he denies it. And inside, Jason convinces Sarah not to tell her husband about their affair, at least for now. In another storyline, Hoyt and Jessica, both virgins, decide to have their first time together. And at the hotel, Eric and Stan have a major falling out, with Eric accusing Stan of killing Godric to become the new sheriff. The next morning, Tara and Eggs wake up on Sookie's couch with total amnesia, like a supernatural version of The Hangover. Steve and Gabe interrogate Sookie, and a cowardly Hugo gives up her last name, revealing she's Jason's sister. Steve orders Gabe to take care of Jason, but he manages to fight his way out. Sookie then reads Hugo's mind and discovers he's the traitor. His motive? He believes vampires only use humans. Sam confronts Daphne, who explains everything. Maryanne is a Maenad, an immortal follower of the Greek god Dionysus. She's a mix of God and the devil, and wants to kill Sam because he escaped her once before. To top it all off, Maryanne thanks Daphne for her services, and has a hypnotized Eggs kill her. Sookie manages to send a telepathic SOS to Bill, but Lorena stops him. Eric, however, hears everything and rushes to the church. There, Gabe tries to attack Sookie, but is stopped by none other than Godric, who appears out of nowhere like a final boss. Without flinching, Godric snaps Gabe's neck like a twig. An alarm blares, and he orders Eric to get Sookie out of there without harming any humans. Speaking of humans, Jason, who took a few paintball shots from Sarah, is furious when she insults his sister. He disarms her and rushes back into the church to play the hero.
And won't be with no fucking paint gun!
Eric tries to sweet-talk his way past the guards, but is met by a mob led by Pastor Steve. With no way out, Eric surrenders to save Sookie and Godric. Far away, Bill finally manages to break free from Lorena, who is busy snacking on the telepath Barry, and escapes. He even has time to interrupt Jessica and Hoyt's first time and send them back to Bon Temps. What a buzzkill. Sam wakes up to find Daphne's heartless body in his bar. Before he can do anything, the police arrive. And who the heart? Maryanne, who serves up a hunter's souffle to Tara and Eggs, who happily devour it, oblivious to everything. The cavalry arrives at the church. Bill and Jason show up to save the day. Jason shoots the gun out of Steve's hand, and the Dallas vampires appear, ready for a feast of religious fanatics, but Godric, ever the Zen master, prevents a massacre. For extra humiliation, Jason tells Steve he slept with Sarah and then punches him in the face. Back at Godric's nest, Sookie confronts Bill for not coming for her sooner. We discover it was Lorena's fault, who, by the way, is Bill's maker. The soap opera drama intensifies when Lorena lunges at Sookie, but Godric stops her. Meanwhile, in Bon Temps, Jessica and Hoyt discover a bug in vampire life. Her hymen regenerates, meaning she will be a virgin forever. Tough luck. In Dallas, the traitor Hugo is spared because Isabel still loves him. The night ends in total chaos. After the macabre dinner, Tara and Eggs fall into a cycle of animalistic passion and violence, much to Maryanne's delight, and at the vampire party, Luke, a church loyalist, shows up with a bomb strapped to his body, screams something, and hits the detonator. Boom! Luke's bomb does some serious damage, but Eric throws himself in front of Sookie and ends up riddled with silver shrapnel. Ever the schemer, he convinces Sookie to suck the silver out, making her swallow some of his blood in the process. Bill later explains the move. Eric orchestrated it all to create a blood bond with her. Now he can sense what she feels, and she will start to feel attracted to him. Sookie is disgusted by the manipulation. Meanwhile, Tara and Eggs wake up covered in bruises with amnesia again. Maryanne takes the opportunity to lecture them on how losing control is liberating. Later, Lafayette, seeing the bruises on his cousin, picks a fight with Eggs at Merlotte's. The brawl gets ugly and even Tara gets hurt.
This motherfucker, he poisoned. He ain't never gonna change, and he may wind up killing you. Fuck you, motherfucker.
In Dallas, Sookie has a very steamy dream about Eric, proving the vampire's blood is already taking effect. Life isn't easy for anyone. Sam escapes jail by turning into a fly, just in time to see Maryanne hypnotize the sheriff and free her followers. Hoyt tries to introduce Jessica to his mother, but the old woman is so unbearable she makes Jessica's fangs pop out. Things get worse when the mother says she can never have children, and Jessica runs off crying tears of blood. Lafayette and Tara's mother decide to rescue her from Maryanne's house. The scene is chaotic, with Tara and Eggs attacking everyone with black eyes. Lafayette manages to grab Tara and escape, while Sam, still a fly, watches the whole thing. In Dallas, the head of the American Vampire League, Nan Flanagan, chews out Godric and fires him. He accepts and renounces everything. Eric realizes something is very wrong. Godric decides he will meet the sun. On the rooftop, he has an emotional farewell with Eric, who weeps and begs his maker not to do it. Godric, with the authority of a master, orders him to leave. Sookie, with her soft heart, promises to stay with Godric until the end. He asks if God will forgive him, and she says yes. As dawn breaks, Godric faces the sun and disintegrates into a blue flame, leaving Sookie in tears. After watching Godric turn to dust, Sookie comes down from the roof and finds Eric's bedroom door open. She steps inside to find the vampire sitting on his bed, shirtless, with blood tears streaming down his face, like something out of a gothic rock poster. He tells her Godric is gone, and Sookie, ever the sweetheart, kisses him on each cheek to comfort him. But Eric isn't content with friendship, pulling Sookie into a deep kiss and throwing her onto the bed. He's already baring his fangs, ready to strike, when Sookie wakes up in the car. It was all an erotic dream, and Jason, who's no fool, has figured it out and starts teasing her. Back in Bon Temps, the town has become a zombie apocalypse thanks to Maryanne. Everyone has black eyes and is acting like they're at a Motley Crue concert. Sam and Andy lock themselves inside an industrial freezer to escape the zombie horde, but then Jason shows up to save the day. He pretends to be the god the crowd is worshipping and, in a masterstroke, smites Sam, who actually turns into a fly and escapes, leaving everyone speechless. Meanwhile, Sookie and Bill confront Maryanne at her house. The villain reveals she was the one who attacked Sookie in the woods. Bill tries to bite the madwoman, but her blood is poisonous and nearly kills him. When Maryanne lunges at Sookie, she holds out her hand and boom! A powerful light shoots from her palm. Shocked, they flee, and learn from a now detranced Tara that Maryanne is a Maynard. To cap off the chaos, Jessica, fed up with Hoyt's mother's insults, decides to use her as a midnight snack. Bill seeks out the vampire queen of Louisiana, Sophie Anne, to ask for help against Maryanne. He finds Her Majesty in the middle of a private dinner, with a human on the menu. Before offering any advice, the queen makes Bill her glorified servant, forcing him to spend the entire day playing Yahtzee and lounging with her. The patience of a vampire is something else. Meanwhile, Tara, desperate to find Eggs, tricks her own mother, who pulls a gun and holds Sookie and Lafayette hostage so her daughter can escape. Jason and Andy decide to play action heroes and go looking for an arsenal to take on Maryanne, ignoring Sam's warning that violence won't work. Speaking of Sam, he finds Arlene's kids in the woods and takes them to Fantasia to ask for Eric's help, who agrees to consult the queen. Back at Sookie's house, which has become the eye of the storm, Tara finds Eggs, but Maryanne appears and puts her back into a trance. Lafayette tries to be a hero and shoots at Maryanne, but the bullet ricochets off her hand and hits her henchman Carl right in the head. Oops! Finally, the queen reveals the secret. Maryanne can only be killed when she believes her god has arrived. As a bonus, Bill discovers the queen's blood bag is Hadley, Sookie's cousin. On his way out, Bill runs into Eric and issues a threat. Either stay away from Sookie, or the queen will find out he's been dealing vampire blood. For the grand finale, Sookie enters her grandmother's room to find Tara and Eggs building a bizarre nest with a giant egg on the bed. To make matters worse, Lafayette appears with black, fully possessed eyes.
Where you been at? I was looking for you.
Maryanne's party is in full swing, and she names Sookie the maid of honor for her macabre wedding. Jason and Andy show up armed to the teeth, ready to crash the party. But it only takes a moment in the crowd before the duo falls under the spell and joins the dance. Their plan went down in flames faster than Vanilla Ice's career. That's when Bill shows up with an ace up his sleeve. He offers Sam as a sacrifice to Maryanne in exchange for Sookie. The crowd goes wild. Eggs stabs Sam, and Maryanne bathes in his blood, thinking she's won. But it was all a ruse. wolves. Sam, who drank Bill's blood to heal, tells Sookie to destroy the altar. She obeys, and with her Jedi fairy powers, topples the offering statue. Maryanne is furious and lunges at her, but suddenly a bull appears in the middle of the room. The villain thinks it's her god and offers herself to him. The bull impales her on its horns, and as she dies, transforms back into Sam, who finishes the job by ripping out her heart. Fatality! With the town saved, everyone is left to deal with their own demons. Eggs, devastated after learning from Sookie that he committed the murders, takes Andy hostage and begs to be arrested. Jason sees the scene from a distance, thinks it's a real attack, and shoots Eggs, killing him instantly. Andy, in an act of loyalty, tells Jason to disappear and takes the blame. To close out the season, Bill takes Sookie to a French restaurant and proposes. Confused, she goes to the bathroom to think and decides yes, she wants to marry him. But when she returns, the table is overturned and Bill is gone. He's been kidnapped by someone with silver chains. Sookie is in full-blown panic mode because Bill has been kidnapped, and apparently no one in town gives a damn.
Bill! Bill! Bill!
Madame.
My boyfriend, he's gone.
Her only option is to ask Eric for help, but he's busy in the Fantasia basement with a dancer named Iveta, like 6 hours busy. Meanwhile, Andy advises Jason to go back to his old womanizing ways to get over the trauma of killing Eggs. Sam continues his search for his birth family, like an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, except the prize is finding out his origins. During the trip, he has a super hot dream about Bill, but the phone rings and ruins the mood right before the kiss. Tough break. He learns his family was evicted, but their son Tommy still lives nearby. Sam finds him, but the guy denies who he is. In the kidnapper's truck, Bill is bound in silver chains while the guys drink his blood like it's beer. He takes advantage of their drunkenness, grabs the steering wheel, and causes a massive crash. Jessica is in trouble too. She fed on a guy at a truck stop, but ended up killing him. Now, the body is decomposing in her house, and the smell is unbearable. Tara, devastated by Eggs' death, snaps and attacks Sookie. Lafayette takes her to her mother's house, who thinks a religious sermon will solve everything. Spoiler, it doesn't. Tara tries to escape to another world in the bathroom, and Lafayette desperately tries to save her. At Fantasia, Queen Sophie Anne and an official called the Magister interrogate Eric about selling vampire blood. The Queen pretends to agree it's a serious crime, but as soon as the Magister leaves, she orders Eric to keep selling to make money for her. The hypocrisy is real. Bill manages to escape the crash and, needing blood, finds an elderly woman. He glamours her, feeds without hurting her, and even leaves some thank you money. Sookie and Jessica find one of the dead kidnappers at the crash site with a strange tattoo. A quick Google search reveals Operation Werewolf. And speaking of werewolves, Bill comes face to face with 4 of them in the woods. He just warns, "I've already fed," and flashes his fangs. It's going to be a long night. Bill's fight against the werewolves is pure chaos. He dispatches 3 and rips the ear off another before the big boss arrives. Russell, the vampire king of Mississippi, who scolds his minions for botching the kidnapping. To make matters worse, he finds out they drank Bill's blood and shoots one of the wolves as punishment. Lafayette saves Tara from her attempt, and instead of taking her to a hospital, takes her to the psychiatric clinic where his mother is a patient. The idea is to show her that despite the darkness in their family's genes, they're strong enough to overcome it. Meanwhile, Sookie goes to demand Eric's help, telling him about the Nazi-style brand on the dead werewolf. This triggers a flashback in Eric's mind, taking us back to World War II. In the memory, he and Godric, disguised as SS officers, investigate Operation Werewolf and discover that the werewolf's master is actually a vampire. Jessica, learning the ropes of being a vampire, asks Pam for tips on how to feed without killing, and more importantly, how to dispose of a body when things go wrong. Hoyt tries to reconnect with her, but Jessica pushes him away, even though it makes her cry in secret. Sam finds his birth family, but the reunion is anything but warm. His younger brother Tommy tries to kill him in a very creative way. During a road race, both shifted into animals. Tommy lures Sam in front of a truck and at the last second turns into a falcon and flies away. Pure betrayal. Eric goes to Sookie's house to protect her. Suddenly, a werewolf bursts into the living room. Sookie grabs a gun and fires, but Eric, in a move worthy of the bodyguard, jumps in front of the bullet. He doesn't want to kill the wolf. He wants answers. Sookie's living room has become a battleground. Eric took a silver bullet to stop her from killing the invading werewolf. Wounded, he bites the wolfman to subdue him. And in the chaos, Sookie manages to read a thought from him. Jackson. It's the clue she needs to find Bill. Eric forbids her from going, calling it a suicide mission. But we all know Sookie doesn't listen to anyone. At Russell's mansion, Bill watches Lorena heal from the burns he inflicted. The king then makes him an offer. The only way to save Sookie from Lorena's wrath is for Bill to pledge his loyalty to him. Meanwhile, Tara, trying to cope with her pain, has a night of mind-blowing with a mysterious vampire named Franklin, but leaves right after, knowing she's too broken for any kind of relationship. Jason decides he wants to become a cop, but his prep for the exam is a disaster. To make matters worse, he and Hoyt find a headless body on the job. The local sheriff is so fed up with the violence that he quits on the spot, opening up a position. Sam's birth family shows up at Merlotte's and causes a huge scene. Later, Sam discovers that his younger brother, Tommy, broke into his office to steal money and ran away after turning into a bird. The kid is trouble. Eric, for his part, gifts Lafayette a Ferrari as a bonus for being his V Salesman of the Month. And since he knows Sookie won't sit still, he sends a protector for her, a huge, bearded werewolf named Al Cid, who takes her to a wolf bar in Jackson. The ending is a roller coaster. Franklin, the mysterious vampire, terrorizes Jessica with the head of the guy she killed, then uses his powers to break into Tara's house. Bill, to save Sookie, finally accepts Russell's offer. Shortly after, he and Lorena get into a fight that turns into violent sex. Bill calls Sookie, feeding her a huge line of crap. He claims he slept with Lorena and that he's done with her, breaking up over the phone. I mean, who does that? Sookie is obviously devastated and seeks comfort from Al Cid, but the truth is, Bill is pissed at Lorena and is plotting with Russell to overthrow the Queen of Louisiana by revealing she's using Eric to deal V. Meanwhile, Sam decides to play detective and finds his birth family. The scene is depressing. His parents and brother Tommy are living in a van. His mother defends Tommy, who's been stealing, saying they need the money. Sam tries to convince his brother to run away from their abusive parents, but Tommy says he'll only be free of them when they're dead. Heavy. In the end, Sam offers his family a place to stay on the condition that they stop the stealing and drinking. Across town, Tara is living a real-life horror movie. Franklin, the stalker vampire, glamours her to get information, bites her, and ties her up before taking her to his boss. And Sookie? Well, she decides she needs to talk to Bill face to face. To do so, she gets a bad girl makeover and convinces Al Cid to take her to a party hosted by his ex, Debbie, which turns out to be an initiation ritual for a werewolf pack. There, Debbie dumps Al Cid and is branded with a hot iron. To top off the night, Russell shows up, offers the wolves his blood to drink, and the whole crowd shifts. Sookie and Al Cid realize they've walked into a massive trap and get the hell out of there.
You need to get out of here. Sookie, run. Run!
After that bizarre werewolf party, Sookie and Al Cid are trying to figure out what to do about Russell. But it's Tara who's in the worst spot, trapped in the Vampire King's mansion. Franklin introduces her as his girlfriend, and Talbot, Russell's partner, immediately quips, "Hence the handcuffs." Tara, no fool, tries to escape, but is caught by the werewolf Cooter and returned to her psycho captor. With no way out, she decides to play along, until Franklin drops the bomb. "Will you be my vampire bride?" Basically, a nightmare. Meanwhile, Eric arrives at the mansion, supposedly to hunt Bill, but Russell, who's no idiot, knows there's more to the story. The visit serves one purpose. Eric sees an ancient Viking crown that triggers a flashback. We learn he was Viking royalty and had his entire family slaughtered by werewolves led by, you guessed it, a dark-haired Russell himself. His father's last word? Vengeance. Now everything makes sense. In Bon Temps, Jason starts his job as a police officer, but is more focused on making paperclip chains. He sees Crystal, the mysterious girl, and goes after her. There's a spark, they kiss, but she tells him their romance can only exist in the now. Lafayette meets Jesus, his mother's nurse, and they start flirting over a game of pool. And Sookie, after failing to get help from the local packmaster, she finally reunites with Bill, who tells her to run. Too late. Russell and Cooter appear. When the werewolf attacks, Sookie fires that ball of blue light from her hand, sending him flying.
Maybe not!
Russell, instead of being scared, is fascinated and declares, "Fantastic!" Sookie and Bill are dragged back to Russell's mansion, and things get tense. Eric, focused on his personal revenge, refuses to help Sookie. Bill is sent to the slave quarters to be finished off by Lorena, who isn't thrilled with the idea. Russell then begins to question Sookie, wanting to know what she is. She has no clue and even jokes, "Maybe I'm an alien." He reveals that Bill kept a dossier on her and her family, and we learn that Sookie's grandfather was also a telepath. Meanwhile, Tara decides she's done being a victim. She seduces Franklin, fights him to gain strength, and in a brutal scene, smashes his head in with a mace before escaping. Girl power to the max. She runs to save Sookie and finds Alcid in wolf form in the yard, ready to help with the rescue. In Bon Temps, Sam uncovers his family's dark secret. They were forcing Tommy to shift into a dog to fight in illegal rings for money. Jason also gets a dose of reality. He goes to give Crystal flowers and discovers she has a fiancé who happens to be one of the guys who hassled Lafayette. To make matters worse, Crystal pretends she's never seen him before. Speaking of Lafayette, his date with Jesus is ruined when some thugs destroy his new car over his V-dealing business. Jesus bails, saying he doesn't mess with drug dealers. In the end, Sookie finds Bill being tortured by Lorena. As she goes to save him, Lorena attacks her neck. The last thing we hear is Sookie's desperate scream, but Sookie's blood is so delicious it distracts Lorena, giving Bill a chance to turn the tables. He uses his last ounce of strength to wrap a silver chain around her neck, and Sookie finishes the job with a stake. End of the line for Lorena. Shortly after, Tara and Alcid arrive, but Sookie refuses to leave without Bill. As they prep Bill to escape the daylight, Debbie, Alcid's psycho ex, shows up with a gun. Tara, using her broke person telepathy, tells Sookie to create a diversion and lunges at Debbie. In the chaos, Cooter charges at Alcid, who shoots him. The werewolf keeps coming, so Alcid puts a bullet in his head. Debbie freaks out, and Alcid locks her in the basement. During the escape, Sookie gets in the van with Bill, and after giving him some of her blood, the starving, near-dead vampire viciously attacks her. When the van stops, Tara finds Sookie unconscious and covered in blood. She kicks Bill out into the sunlight, but to everyone's surprise, he only smokes a little instead of bursting into flames.
Get out!
But I can help!
Get out!
At the hospital, doctors discover Sookie's blood is a mystery. It rejects all transfusions. She drifts into a dreamlike state and meets a fairy, Claudine, who tells her that her parents didn't die in the flood. Back in the real world, Bill convinces Jason to let him heal Sookie with his blood. She wakes up screaming, remembering his attack. Meanwhile, Sam goes undercover at a dogfighting ring by shifting into a pit bull and rescues his brother. Eric discovers Sookie's secret by draining her cousin and is shocked. To top it all off, King Russell denounces the authority, marries the queen by force, and then the magister's head like it's nothing. Sookie wakes up screaming and tells Bill to get the hell out. Later, alone, they have the ultimate heart-to-heart and realize they can't be together. Bill says he loves her, but she deserves a normal life with children and sunshine. It's the end of the line for the couple. Meanwhile, Eric pledges his allegiance to King Russell, and Debbie gets permission to hunt Sookie. Life isn't easy for the others either. Arlene has an intense nightmare about her psycho ex-husband. Jessica returns to Bill's house, and though he tries to send her away, she refuses to leave, and the two share an embrace. Alcid stays behind to look after Sookie, but has to leave after Debbie sets his sister's salon on fire. Their farewell has that what-if vibe, and he promises to return. Crystal, beaten and bruised, shows up at Jason's house, running from her fiancé. It doesn't take long for the two of them to get together. Over at Merlotte's, all hell breaks loose. Tara has flashbacks of Franklin. Hoyt almost gets into a fight with Tommy over Jessica, and Crystal's fiancé appears looking for her, threatening Sam. Speaking of Franklin, Sookie's cousin Hadley shows up to warn her that Russell is coming for her, and that Bill is not to be trusted. The night ends in total chaos. Sookie's house is invaded by werewolves. Bill and Jessica arrive to help, but Russell kidnaps Jessica, while Sookie gives Debbie a serious beatdown. Eric finally gets his revenge and kills Talbot, the king's beloved. Russell feels his death instantly and flees, screaming in agony. Amid the destruction, Bill and Sookie find each other, declare their love, and have a savage reconciliation on the bedroom floor. Sookie and Bill are back together, and she seems completely unfazed by the chaos. Finding a dead body in her house? Normal. She even has a plan to get rid of it. Sookie confronts Bill about a dossier he has on her, and he swears he was only investigating Eric's interest in her. Meanwhile, Jason discovers he was played by Crystal, who pretended to be a hostage just so they could get rid of her fiancé, Felton. The plan sort of works, but Felton escapes and nearly kills a cop. The vampire authority shows up at Eric's door demanding answers about the Magister's disappearance. He and Pam are placed under house arrest, and Eric warns her that if things go south for him, she needs to be ready to make a new vampire. Elsewhere, Tara starts attending a support group and befriends Holly, the new waitress. The trouble comes roaring back when Franklin reappears out of nowhere and kidnaps Tara, but this time, Jason arrives prepared, like a small-town Rambo, with wooden bullets in his shotgun. He fires without a second thought and turns Franklin into a puddle of goo. Goodbye, Psycho. But the grand finale belongs to King Russell. Grieving and completely unhinged, clutching Talbot's remains in an urn, he crashes a live TV broadcast. In front of everyone, he murders the news anchor and delivers an epic speech, shattering the good guy image vampires were trying to build. He screams to the world that humans should be afraid, that vampires don't see them as equals, and that deep down, all they want is to treat humanity as their personal buffet. It's a televised vampire apocalypse.
Friendly faces to pass their beloved VRA, but make no mistake, mine is the true face of vampire!
Bill drops the bombshell. Sookie is a fairy, or rather, part fairy. Apparently, one of her ancestors had a thing with a fairy, which is why her blood is so special. While Sookie processes this mind-blowing news, Tara and Jason are in how to dispose of a body mode, hastily burying Franklin's remains. In another part of town, Lafayette, instead of taking Calvin to the hospital, decides to play doctor and gives him a drop of vampire blood. And it actually works. Calvin gets up instantly, healed, but furious about being given vamp juice. Meanwhile, Sam has a flashback to 2003, where he was basically a professional jewel thief who shapeshifted to pull off heists. We learn he was betrayed by an accomplice and nearly died, but he managed to turn the tables, get his money back, and kill both traitors. Back in the present, Eric, believing he's about to die, updates his will and leaves everything to Pam. Yvetta is furious she gets nothing, and Eric bluntly tells her she means nothing to him. Tara, still traumatized, tells Sookie she was kidnapped and by Franklin, and that Bill did nothing to help. She vows never to trust a vampire again. Speaking of trust, Jason, after a moment of weakness with Tara, confesses he's the one who killed Eggs.
I shot Eggs. Say something.
Sookie, for her part, goes to confront Eric. He replies that his greatest regret would be dying without ever having kissed her, and he plants one on her. The moment is cut short by Pam bursting in with an emergency vampire rant or something along those lines. To cap off the night of insanity, Eric kidnaps Sookie and chains her by the neck in the basement of Fantasia. Bill storms into Fantasia, looking like the Terminator, searching for Sookie. Pam tries to stop him, but he throws her aside. But Pam is clever and sprays silver in his face, blinding him. Sookie and Yvetta take advantage of the chaos and chain Pam up with silver, discovering she was meant to be a gift for Russell. Meanwhile, Jason is trying to process the news that Crystal is a werepanther. It's not going well for him. Jessica and Hoyt are back on. She tells him she killed a man, and instead of freaking out, he offers her his own neck to feed from. Every couple has their quirks, right? Eric goes to Russell and, instead of fighting, makes him an offer he can't refuse. He can give Russell the son. The condition? If I'm wrong, kill me tomorrow. The twisted plan is to use Sookie's Fey blood. And speaking of twisted plans, Arlene tries a ritual with Holly to terminate her pregnancy, but it fails. Later, she wakes up bleeding, but at the hospital, she finds out the baby is perfectly fine. It seems this baby is determined to be born. Sam is on a rampage. He fires Tommy, kicks all the customers out of the bar, and tells everyone to get lost. In the middle of the road, Sookie and Bill's car is stopped by Eric and Russell. It's time for the experiment. At Fantasia, the two vampires drink Sookie's blood as she screams. Eric steps out into the daylight and it works. He looks shocked, but only for a moment. His skin starts to bubble, and then comes the plot twist. He chains himself to Russell with silver handcuffs. His plan wasn't to walk in the sun. It was a suicide mission to take Russell down with him. Eric is getting fried to a crisp next to Russell when the spirit of Godric appears, telling him to forgive and let go of his hatred. But Sookie, who is in no mood for games, wakes up and runs outside. She doesn't know how to use her powers, but Russell's pressure makes her unleash a massive fairy power blast that looks like a Hadouken and shatters the cuffs. she drags Eric inside, saves the day, and even gives him some of her blood to heal. Russell is captured, and the new plan is genius. Bury him in wet cement for at least 100 years. Goodbye, villain. In Hot Shot, things get ugly. Jason warns them about a police raid, but Felton, high on V, shoots his own father Calvin in the face and kidnaps Crystal. Meanwhile, Lafayette discovers that Jesus isn't just a hot nurse, he's a brujo, and Tara, after chopping her hair into a radical new style, decides to start her life over, but the calm doesn't last. Bill, in a move worthy of a soap opera villain, betrays Eric. He chains the blonde vampire and throws him into the cement pit as well. Bill buries Eric alive and then calls to have Pam killed. Sookie opens her door to find Eric covered in cement, saved by Pam, of course. He tells her the whole truth. Bill was sent by the Queen to find her. He knew about her blood, and he deliberately let her get beaten up just so he could save her and create a blood bond. Sookie obviously freaks out. She tells Bill to get lost and never speak to her again, and there's nothing left for Eric either. She tells him to leave too, to end the season in chaos.
I would never have given you to Russell.
Go back to hell where you came from, you fucking dead piece of shit.
Sam shoots Tommy. Bill and Queen Sylphianne are about to throw down, and Sookie finds a group of fairies in the cemetery and disappears with them into a portal of light. We pick up with Sookie entering the Fey realm with Claudine. The place looks like something out of a Disney dream, with glowing magical fruits called Lumiere. Sookie even finds her grandfather, who swears he's only been there for a few hours but has actually been missing for 20 years. Time passes differently there, like a Dragon Ball Z training room, but Sookie, who's no fool, senses something is off about this paradise. When she refuses to eat the magic fruit, Queen reveals the plan. The Fae have been harvesting humans. Sookie uses her light powers, like a Marvel superhero, and reveals the realm's true form, a barren wasteland with hideous creatures. She and her grandfather escape through a portal, but the poor guy turns to dust the moment he sets foot in Bon Temps, a bizarre side effect of the fruit, and the surprises keep coming. Sookie discovers she's been gone for over a year. In her 10 minutes in the Fey world, she lost a year of her life. Jason, her brother, is now a cop and sold her house, thinking Bill had killed her. To make matters worse, Sheriff Andy is addicted to vampire blood and more insufferable than ever. Eric, smug as ever, says he always knew she was alive. For the grand finale, the vampire reveals he bought Sookie's house, basically telling her she's now his. Meanwhile, Lafayette is being dragged into a witch coven, Tara has become an MMA fighter, and Jason, who was looking after a tribe of were-panthers, has been locked in a freezer by them. Oh, and Bill is now the vampire king of Louisiana. Jason wakes up tied to a bed, a prisoner of the were-panthers. The situation gets even weirder when Felton, Crystal's half-brother, threatens him with a gun, making it clear their plan is anything but friendly. Meanwhile, Sookie tries to kick Eric out of her house, but he delivers a poetic and sinister speech about how her blood tastes like freedom, and that he bought the house to protect her. Desperate, Sookie runs to King Bill for help, only to find him with another woman. Bill promises to help, but we learn in a flashback how he became king. He was a punk rock spy in the 80s who betrayed the former queen to seize power on behalf of the Vampire Authority. Life for the other characters is also in chaos. Eric crashes Lafayette's witchcraft coven meeting to break up the party. However, when he bites the group's leader, Marnie, he triggers a trap. Seeing Tara in danger, Lafayette joins the circle of witches, who cast a powerful spell. The result? Eric completely loses his memory. To end the episode with maximum tragedy, Crystal and Felton reveal their plan for Jason. They're going to forcibly turn him into a werepanther, so he can impregnate Crystal and continue the bloodline. They transform and bite him as he screams. On the road, Sookie finds a shirtless, confused Eric who has no idea who he is. The only thing he recognizes is her scent, asking, "Why do you smell so good?" Sookie, with her soft heart, decides to help Eric, who is now a handsome, amnesiac vampire acting like a lost puppy. She tries to hide the fact that he owns her house, but Pam finds out and, of course, blames Bill for the situation, thinking it's some kind of scheme. Meanwhile, life for the others continues its downward spiral. Jason is on the verge of turning into a werepanther and begs Crystal to let him go. go, but she refuses. Jessica, feeling guilty for feeding on another guy, confesses everything to Bill and then to Hoyt. When Hoyt doesn't react well, she simply glamours him to make him forget everything. Just like that. The witch coven is also in trouble. Pam gives them a 24-hour ultimatum to reverse the spell on Eric, or things will get ugly. In the midst of all this chaos, a creepy, unsettling doll keeps appearing in Hoyt and Jessica's house, and it ends up in the hands of Arlene's baby, which only amps up the horror movie vibe in town. The episode ends with a shock. Sookie's fairy godmother, Claudine, appears, begging her to run. But out of nowhere, the amnesiac Eric attacks and drains her blood until she turns to ash. After killing Sookie's protector, all he can manage to say is a weak oops. Yep, Sookie definitely can't catch a break. After draining all of Claudine's fairy blood, gets completely high. He's like a kid on a massive sugar rush, pinching Sookie's and running around at vampire speed, wanting to play. When she refuses, he vanishes into the night. Later, Al Cid shows up and turns into a wolf to track the big vamp down. He finds Eric in a swamp, enjoying the daylight like a tourist at the beach. When Al Cid approaches, Eric bares his fangs, but the fairy blood soon wears off and his skin begins to fry in the sun. Sookie pulls him out of the water, wraps him in a blanket, and takes him back home. Meanwhile, Jason manages to convince Becky not to lose her virginity to him, knocks out Luther, and escapes. But the getaway doesn't last long. Felton, Crystal, and Timbo, transformed into werepanthers, chase him down. Jason manages to kill Felton with a sharpened stick, and Crystal, instead of being sad, kicks the guy's body and declares that she and Jason are destined to be together. She says his place is now in hotshot as the new father of the clan. He bolts out of there.
Hey, baby. You're gonna be Panther Man and Ghost Daddy to our clan.
I'll be waiting for you, Jason. Full moon.
Elsewhere, Bill gets an earful from his boss, Nan Flanagan, for letting Eric get involved with witches. Marnie, the witch in question, dreams of a Spanish ancestor being burned during the Inquisition. When she wakes up, Jesus, Lafayette, and Tara beg her to reverse the spell on Eric, but she says she can't. Suddenly, a book flies off the shelf, revealing the correct spell. And to complete the chaos, Portia introduces Bill to her grandmother, and they discover they're related. Sam goes to visit Luna and meets her daughter Emma, but Luna warns him that her ex is a jealous werewolf. At Arlene's house, baby Mikey appears with a sinister message on the wall. Baby's not yours. To top it all off, Sookie lies straight to Bill's face to protect Eric, and Marnie, while trying to reverse the spell, ends up making Pam's face melt. The drama in Tommy's family escalates to an insane level. He manages to break free from his father, Joe Lee, and beats him to death with a chain and a pipe. In the chaos, he accidentally hits his mother, killing her too. Tommy freaks out when he realizes he's killed his own parents. Meanwhile, Eric dreams of his maker Godric telling him to drink Sookie's blood. When he wakes up, he's terrified, and Sookie comforts him, letting him rest his head in her lap. As for Jason, after being saved by Jessica, he starts having some very steamy dreams about her. And speaking of weird relationships, Bill gets tired of Portia's persistence and uses his powers to make her scream and run away every time she sees him. Pam, her face still melting, demands that Bill find Marnie to fix the damage. Sookie decides to investigate on her own and goes to the witch's shop, where she hears her grandmother's voice in her thoughts, telling her to get out of there. Soon after, Marnie is arrested, but even under Bill's compulsion, she can't help because she genuinely doesn't know how to reverse the spell. Lafayette and Jesus travel to Mexico to find his grandfather, a powerful brujo.
Been expecting you.
Tara decides to move to New Orleans and says her goodbyes, but her girlfriend Naomi shows up, questioning her fake identity. Sam, trying to be a good brother, helps Tommy dispose of their parents' bodies by dumping them in a swamp for the alligators. The night ends with Eric telling Sookie he knows he's done horrible things. He tries to leave so he won't hurt her, but Sookie calls him back, and they finally share a passionate kiss. The romantic mood is shattered when a pissed-off Pam tells Bill that Eric has lost his memory and is staying at Sookie's house. Just as Eric and Sookie are about to get it on, Bill breaks down the door and arrests Eric for treason, claiming he's been infected by Marnie. He even asks Nan for permission to give Eric the true death. Tense. Across town, Arlene and Terry's house catches fire, and it's baby Mikey's fault, along with a ghost only he can see. At least Andy, while investigating the fire, works up the courage to ask Holly out. It's a full moon, moon, and the big question was, will Jason turn into a werepanther? The answer is no. Apparently, you only turn into one of those things if you have the right genetics. Speaking of creatures, Debbie joins the Shreveport pack behind Alcid's back, forcing him to run with them. We discover the identity of the witch possessing Marnie, Antonia, a woman who was tortured and killed by vampires posing as priests in Spain. Her hatred for vampires is more than justified, and she already seems to have one of the vampire sheriffs under her control.
We'll scream.
Existo.
In Mexico, Lafayette is possessed by a spirit named Tio Luca to save Jesus from a venomous snakebite. In Bon Temps, Naomi finds Tara, and after a major argument, the two make up passionately, but the peace is short-lived. Pam, her face all rotted, shows up to attack them both. Tommy, in an identity crisis, shapeshifts into Sam, fires Sookie, sleeps with Luna, and then kicks her out. Sam finds his brother passed out in a pool of his own vomit, but the big moment of the night is when Eric reappears to Sookie in the forest, claiming Bill set him free. Without wasting any time, the two finally have their long-awaited night of passion, right there under the moonlight. Antonia has finally gotten what she wanted and is now in Marnie's body, like a full soul download. The first thing she does is use her new power to mind control a dead vampire, Luis, turning him into her personal zombie. And the first order is simple: get revenge on Katerina, who betrayed the witch coven. Meanwhile, Pam, who's still rotting from the curse, decides to take out all her frustration on Tara. Luckily for Tara, a group of tourists shows up, and one of them asks, "Is that a zombie?" Pam's pride wins out, and she lets Tara go, but warns her their fight isn't over. As for Tommy, Sam finds him in bad shape. He lies, saying he ate something bad, but it's actually the side effects of shapeshifting into Sam using his new skinwalker abilities. Far away in Mexico, Lafayette learns from Jesus' grandfather that he's a medium. Basically, he's the Cole from the Sixth Sense of Bon Temps. Speaking of discoveries, Alcid and Debbie are initiated into the new wolf pack, but Alcid doesn't seem thrilled. His mood worsens when they find Sookie and Eric in the middle of the woods in an intense love scene under the moonlight. The main conflict heats up when Antonia sends her zombie vampire after Bill. He shoots the king with a silver bullet and then kills himself with a stake, whispering resurrection before exploding.
It's possible.
Bill, knowing all hell is about to break loose, warns all vampires to chain themselves with silver to resist Antonia's spell that will force them to meet the sun. Jessica chains herself up and, in a conversation with Bill, confesses she no longer loves Hoyt. Amidst all this chaos, Tara runs into Antonia and decides to join her cause. The spell is cast, and while Pam and Eric struggle against their chains, Jessica manages to break free, kill a guard, and run towards the front door, which opens to the sun. Jason arrives just in time, and all we hear is a gunshot. Jason acts like a true hero, throwing himself in front of Jessica and stopping her from turning to ash in the sun. The chemistry between them heats up, but she soon snaps out of it. He carries her back to her cell, much to Bill's relief. Meanwhile, a weakened Eric needs to feed. Sookie offers her blood, and in return, he offers his so they can become one. After the ritual, they go on a psychedelic trip and end up on a bed in the middle of a snowy forest. It's the kind of date that only happens in Bon Temps. Across town, Jessica has a violent nightmare where she breaks up with Hoyt and, upon waking, decides to do it for real. The conversation is a disaster, and he kicks her out, revoking her invitation so she can never enter again. Lafayette's situation isn't any better. The ghost of Mavis possesses his body, steals a gun, and kidnaps Arlene's baby. Antonia, frustrated that her spell only killed one vampire, agrees to meet Bill in the cemetery for a talk, but of course, it's a trap. The place is engulfed in a thick fog, and the battle begins. In the chaos, Pam nearly kills Tara, but Bill stops her with a maker's command. Sookie uses her fairy powers but ends up getting shot. Alcid rescues her and carries her away. The fight ends with Eric on his knees, confused, after Antonia casts a spell on him. Back at Luna's house, Sam is confronted by Marcus, who is not happy to see him near his ex and daughter. The tension is palpable. Alcid tries to play the knight in shining armor by carrying Sookie, but Bill shows up, sweeps her into his arms, and heals her with his blood. The first thing Sookie does when she wakes up is ask for Eric, completely ignoring Alcid, who gets furious and storms off. Meanwhile, Lafayette, still possessed by Mavis, holds Hoyt hostage. The situation is only resolved when Jesus arrives and manages to exorcise the spirit, helping Mavis find peace with her son's remains. Debbie, in a twist worthy of a soap opera, pretends to make peace with Sookie, but it's all a ruse to distract the witches, while Sookie infiltrates their hideout to rescue Eric. Tara even helps by faking a fight to provide cover. Sookie finds Eric, who is under a spell, and manages to escape. In another part of town, Tommy impersonates Sam to confront Marcus and ends up taking a brutal beating from the pack, only to be saved at the last second by Alcide. The grand finale takes place at the Festival of Tolerance. Antonia shows up with an enchanted Eric and other vampires. During Bill's speech, the controlled vampires attack the guards, causing total panic. In the midst of the chaos, Sookie screams for everyone to run. Before all this mayhem, Jason goes to return Jessica's things. The tension boils over, and they finally end up together in the bed of his truck. It seems that even when the world is ending, there's always time for a forbidden romance. The Bon Temps Festival of Tolerance devolves into complete chaos, like a rock concert gone horribly wrong. The witch Martonia, Antonia in Marnie's body, goes into mind control mode and orders her pet vampires to kill King Bill. Sookie tries to break up the fight, but Eric, looking like a possessed Hulk, throws her to the ground. In the confusion, Bill shoots Eric. Sookie, seeing how serious things have gotten, uses her fairy powers for the first time, unleashing a light-based Hadouken that stops the fight and, as a bonus, restores Eric's memories. Martonia sees the bloodbath, casts a smoke spell, and vanishes in true Dungeon Master style. Meanwhile, life goes on. Jessica tries to convince Jason their fling was no big deal, but his conscience is eating him up over Hoyt. He even asks her to glamour him to forget everything, but Jessica is deeply offended and takes off to hunt for a bite. Elsewhere, Alcide finds Tommy beaten to a pulp. Tommy refuses to go to the hospital and asks to die at home, in Sam's trailer. And that's what happens. He dies on the pool table, apologizing for everything. Sam swears revenge on Marcus. Back to the main event, Eric now remembers everything, including his romance with Sookie. He says nothing has changed, but Sookie throws cold water on it, telling him she still loves Bill, and that's why she was able to break the spell. The group bands together to rescue Tara, who's trapped in Marnie's shop. Jesus, the witch's boyfriend, tries a diplomatic approach but runs into a force field. To get through, he activates his demon form and breaks the barrier. Inside, Tara and Holly manage to escape, but Marnie works some magic and teleports everyone away, except for Jason. To cap off the night, Bill, Eric, Pam, and Jessica arrive at the shop, ready to blow it to smithereens. Inside, the tension is thick. Marnie, acting like nothing's wrong, pisses off one of the witches, who attacks her. In magical self-defense, Marnie throws a knife at her and kills her. Seeing the mess she's made, Antonia's spirit decides to abandon ship, but Marnie, who is no fool, casts a spell and traps the Spanish witch's soul, gaining full control. Outside, Jason warns them that Sookie is inside, and Eric and Bill's reaction is a unified, "God damn it, Sookie." Negotiations begin when Marnie and Sookie step out. The witch's proposal is simple. She'll release Sookie if Bill and Eric take their own lives. They agree, but Pam, who apparently keeps a rocket launcher in her purse, decides to intervene. The magic shield deflects the missile, and the explosion burns Jason. Jessica saves him with her blood, and Eric gets pissed at Pam. Back inside, Marnie has a vision of her own future, dead with a bullet in her forehead. Panicked, she casts a spell to make the vampires march toward the death shield. Sookie, with her fairy powers, breaks the enchantment. Marnie is furious, pins everyone to the wall, and creates a circle of fire around Sookie. That's when Jesus uses the dead witch's body to free Antonia, who undoes the fire magic. The shield falls. The vampires invade. A royally pissed off Eric rips out a follower's heart and drinks his blood like it's from a juice box. And then, Bill fulfills the prophecy. He shoots Marnie multiple times, with the final shot hitting her square in the forehead. Meanwhile, in another fight, Alcide catches Debbie with Marcus, and in a brutal brawl, snaps the werewolf's neck. To top it all off, Marnie's spirit, now free, finds a new home, Lafayette's body. It's Halloween in Bon Temps, and Lafayette, possessed by Marnie, is serving up terror. He stabs Jesus' hand with a fork just to show who's in charge. Later, he ties up his boyfriend and demands his powers. Jesus, left with no choice, gives up his demon magic, and Lafayette Marnie kills him to seal the deal. Now with a power upgrade, the target is clear. Bill and Eric. He ties them to silver stakes, ready for a vampire barbecue. Sookie, Tara, and Holly arrive just in time to stop the bonfire. They perform a ritual that summons an army of ghosts, including Sookie's grandmother and Antonia herself. Grandma Adele, with all her ghostly authority, rips Marnie's spirit out of Lafayette. Antonia then convinces the enraged witch to let go of her hatred and pass on. Sookie has an emotional farewell with her grandmother, who tells her she already knows what to do.
They're all alone at the end.
Sookie heals Bill and Eric, confesses she loves them both, but that she needs time for herself and kicks them both to the curb, leaving the two vampires stunned. The calm doesn't last. Jason finally tells Hoyt about Jessica and gets the crap beaten out of him. And since misery loves company, Halloween night ends with a series of plot twists. Steve Newlin, the anti-vampire pastor, knocks on Jason's door with vampire fangs.
Trick or treat.
Al Cid discovers that Russell has escaped his concrete prison, and worst of all, Debbie, Al Cid's ex, breaks into Sookie's house with a shotgun. Tara throws herself in front to save her friend and takes a bullet to the head. Sookie, in a fit of rage, grabs the gun and blows Debbie's face off, ending the night screaming, holding her best friend's body. Meanwhile, Bill and Eric are on cleanup duty, scrubbing Nan's blood at super speed. They sense Sookie is in danger, but Eric snaps, "Fuck Sookie," reminding Bill that she kicked them both to the curb and that the cleanup is more important. A shot rings out. Lafayette runs downstairs to find Sookie holding Tara, who took a shotgun blast to the head. At the same moment, Bill hears the shot and bolts, only to be captured in a silver net by soldiers. Eric hears his scream, realizes they're here, and it's captured in the same way. Out of nowhere, Pam shows up looking for Eric. A desperate Lafayette begs her to turn Tara into a vampire. Sookie and Pan hate the idea, but Lafayette insists, and Sookie offers a favor in return. Pan accepts, bites her own wrist, and makes Tara drink the blood. Cut to Jason, who answers the door completely naked and finds Steve Newlin on his doorstep. Steve is now a vampire and drops a bombshell. He's a gay vampire American and in love with Jason. After trying to glamour Jason to take advantage of him, Jessica shows up, saves the day, declares that Jason is hers, and plants a kiss on him. Bill and Eric, trapped in a car trunk, use an umbrella to puncture the gas tank and blow up the car. Before they can be finished off, a vampire named Nora, who is Eric's sister by creation, saves them both. To cap off the chaotic night, Sookie and Lafayette go to dispose of Debbie's body and discover that Jesus' body has vanished. The episode ends with them burying Pam in the ground with Tara, waiting for the transformation to work. Pam digs herself out, complaining about the dirt, and when Sookie digs for Tara, she finds her cold and lifeless. But suddenly, Tara resurrects as a vampire with super speed and lunges at Sookie. Lafayette is powerless to help, and it's Pan who rips the new vampire off her. Meanwhile, Bill, Eric, and Nora are taken to a sinister authority facility and tortured with UV light. Their captors try to turn them against each other, but the vampires aren't cracking. Back in Bon Temps, Tara is freaking out, destroying Sookie's house. They try to calm her down with True Blood, but it doesn't work. In the end, Sookie and Lafayette manage to restrain her with silver chains. Pam has a flashback to 1905, when she was a brothel madam, and a very stylish Eric appeared, saving her from a mugger. The chemistry was already there. Back in the present, Jessica throws a party at Bill's mansion, and Steve Newlin shows up offering $20,000 for Jason. She laughs in his face and kicks him out. Jason is going through a rough time. First, a kid punches him for sleeping with his mom, Crazy Sharon. Then, he tries to make peace with Hoyt, who tells him to get lost. To make matters worse, Luna discovers her daughter, Emma, has turned into a werewolf cub.
Holy.
At night, Tara finally escapes. Before disappearing into the darkness, she looks back at Sookie and Lafayette and says, "I will never forgive either of you." Far away to save themselves from certain death, Bill and Eric strike a deal with the authority. They'll deliver Russell in exchange for their lives. The authority, who thought Russell was dead, is shocked, and to prove this is serious, the final scene shows Russell very much alive, recovering and licking blood from his lips. Tara is lost in the woods, discovering her new superpowers. She almost attacks a girl but stops when she sees her own reflection in the car. The identity crisis is hitting hard. At the authority, Roman accepts Bill and Eric's deal. And who's the new vampire spokesperson? None other than Steve Newlin, who's now set to go on TV and advocate for integration. Sookie goes to ask Pam for help finding Tara. Pam, having no patience, threatens Sookie, who retaliates with her Fey powers and blasts the vampire across the room. Meanwhile, Tara shows up at Merlotte's, drinks all the true blood she can find, and passes out. To save her from the sun, Sam hides her in the bar's walk-in freezer. We get a huge flashback of Pam, showing how she became a vampire. After meeting Eric, she became obsessed with the idea. When he refused to turn her, she slit her own wrists, forcing him to save her and grant her eternal life. It's both epic and tragic. Back in the present, the mysterious Salome is playing all sides. First, she seduces Bill, then Eric. The two only find out in the elevator, with Bill taunting Eric for being first. Awkward. Sookie finally tells Alcide that she's the one who killed Debbie. He's furious about the lie and storms off, leaving Sookie high and dry. Jason, after sleeping with a former teacher, realizes he no longer wants to be just a piece of meat and decides to stop using sex to fill the void. He and Jessica even agree to just be friends. To end on a high note, Tara wakes up in the freezer, escapes, and heads straight for a tanning salon to try and kill herself. Pam, even from a distance, feels her progeny's pain and gets royally pissed, muttering,
"You stupid bitch."
Pam arrives at the salon just in time to stop Tara from becoming a vampire barbecue on a tanning bed. As her maker, Pam uses her creator's command and forbids Tara from ever trying to kill herself again, leaving the new vampire furious but obedient. Meanwhile, Sookie is on a full-blown confession tour. After telling Alcide everything, she gets an epic lecture from Lafayette, who calls her an angel of death, saying she always survives but leaves a trail of bodies in her wake. Bill and Eric are released in the middle of nowhere and start theorizing about who freed Russell. At the authority headquarters, Roman sends Salome to have a chat with Nora, using persuasion to get her to talk. Sookie continues her apology tour and confesses to Jason that she killed Debbie. He's shocked, and Jessica, who was in his room, overhears everything and is floored to learn Tara is now a vampire. Back at Fantasia, Eric reunites with Pam, who introduces her vampire daughter, Tara. Eric couldn't care less. Later, he interrogates Pam about Russell, and she swears her loyalty. In a highly emotional moment, Eric releases her from their blood bond, explaining he's on a suicide mission and needs his bloodline to survive. In another corner of the supernatural world, Jason and Andy are taken to a secret Fey nightclub. There, Jason learns from his cousin Hadley the shocking truth. His parents didn't die in a flood. They were killed by a vampire. To make matters worse, Lafayette's inner demon puts a hex on Sookie's car, which accelerates on its own until she's forced to jump out before it crashes. The night ends with Sookie and Alcide about to share a moment, only to be watched by Bill and Eric, who plan to use her to find Russell. Sookie and Alcide's steamy night is interrupted in the most anticlimactic way possible. She throws up on his shoes. Outside, Bill and Eric watch the scene unfold, with Eric joking that the werewolf really knows how to treat a lady. After the embarrassment, Sookie decides that since her life will never be normal, she might as well embrace the chaos. She agrees to help the vampire duo hunt down Russell. Meanwhile, a desperate Lafayette prays to Jesus for help getting rid of the demon possessing him, but all that appears is his deceased boyfriend's head, trying to warn him about something. At Fantasia, Pam promotes Tara to bartender, and the newbie already causes trouble by attacking a human. Jessica shows up, and the two have a moment of connection, with Jessica giving her some tips on the vamp life. The hunt for Russell leads the group to an abandoned asylum. Using her powers, Sookie sees in a witness's memory that the person who freed Russell was a woman wearing an authority pendant. Bill immediately accuses Nora, Eric's sister. The search of the asylum reveals piles of drained bodies and humans caged like cattle, waiting to be snacks. In parallel, a new threat emerges. A group of crazies in Barack Obama masks are hunting supernaturals. They shoot Sam and Luna, who barely survive, and Terry's past is finally revealed. During the war, his unit killed innocent civilians, and a woman cursed them with an Ifrit, a demon of fire and smoke. The demon appears and kills Eller, one of Terry's former squad mates, proving the threat is real. The episode ends with the group finding a fully recovered Russell, ready for a fight, just as Alcide is attacked by another werewolf. The asylum erupts into chaos. Sookie unleashes her Fey power and blasts Russell against the wall. Bill stops Eric from finishing the job, with the brilliant idea of delivering Russell alive to the authority to angle for a pardon. Sure enough, an authority team arrives and takes control. Before leaving, Bill pretends to wipe Sookie's memory, telling her to live a normal life. Eric, however, wipes Alcid's mind but adds an extra command. Besides protecting Sookie, he will now feel a deep disgust for her. To prove they're not messing around, one of the authority leaders slaughters all the human witnesses they have just rescued. Back in Bon Temps, Sookie undoes the spell on Alcide, who remembers everything, gets furious with the vampires, and leaves. He decides to take matters into his own hands and challenges JD, the new V-addicted leader of his old pack. Meanwhile, Jason takes Sookie to the Fae nightclub. There, she discovers that an unknown vampire killed her parents because he was drawn to the scent of her blood as a child. Basically, it was her fault. Elsewhere, Hoyt, in his emo-suicidal phase, is saved and kidnapped by the masked vigilantes hunting supernaturals. At the authority headquarters, Bill and Eric are welcomed as heroes. Roman plans a public execution for Russell. Eric discovers his sister Nora is a fanatical sanguinista and is shocked to see her celebrate the execution, believing it's all part of a divine plan. But the plan goes south. At the crucial moment, the execution device fails. Russell frees himself in the blink of an eye, throws Roman onto the table, and impales him with a stake, screaming at the top of his lungs,
Peace is
Chaos has officially been unleashed upon the authority. Russell, after finishing off Roman, turns to Eric and drops the line, "You and I, together at last." But before things can get heated, AVL guards storm the room with night vision goggles and capture Russell in a silver net. As the dust settles, Bill finds Eric hanging on the wall, who quips, "The view from up here is spectacular." Meanwhile, Sookie learns her Fae magic has an expiration date. It's like a cell phone battery that, if used too much, will die forever. The idea of finally becoming a normal human is actually appealing to her. Elsewhere, Sam, in full-on canine detective mode, sniffs out a crime scene and finds a box full of Obama masks, the same ones used by the anti-supernatural killers. Hoyt, for his part, joins this hate group, feeling like he's finally found his people. Back at the authority, Bill and Eric realize they were used as bait, so Russell could eliminate Roman. Salome confesses everything. She's the one who dug up Russell to stage a coup. She invites them to join the new management, but they refuse. Later, in a bizarre ceremony, Russell becomes a devotee of Lilith and beheads anyone who disagrees. Bill and Eric decide to play along to survive. The night ends with the authority vampires high on Lilith's blood, crashing a karaoke party and turning it into a bloodbath. In the midst of the chaos, the ghost of Godric appears and gives Eric a reality check. His sister Nora is blinded by faith, and he needs to save her. Elsewhere, Jason catches Jessica feeding, and their fight gets so ugly that he shoots her in the head. She heals instantly and kicks him out of the mansion. The vampires' night out comes to an end, and they return to the authority headquarters, still riding the high from Lilith's blood. Eric, now sober, is trying to process what happened, while Bill swears he saw Lilith herself. Eric thinks it was just a trip from the blood, and we can already feel their friendship starting to crack. Disappointed with Bill's new vibe, Eric decides to leave the party. Meanwhile, Sookie and Jason seek help from the Fae to uncover the mystery of their parents' death. In a creepy session on the bridge where it all happened, Sookie relives the tragic night, but with a twist. She sees everything through the eyes of the killer vampire. That's how she learns his name, Warlow. The Fae panic, because this psychic connection is not a good thing. In another storyline, the anti-supernatural rednecks capture Jessica and lock Hoyt in a room with her, telling him to finish off his ex, but Hoyt refuses. Jessica then kills one of the guards, and since she can't go out in the daylight, Hoyt goes for help, but not before dropping a "fuck you, Jess." The episode's climax unfolds at the new authorities meeting. They're discussing their next move, and Bill, who until now was Mr. Mainstream, shocks everyone with a radical suggestion: destroy all the True Blood factories. Eric is completely baffled, looking at his former friend as if he were a stranger. And Bill, with ice in his veins, says, "I am evolving. The world is in chaos with the news of the True Blood factory's destruction." At the authority headquarters, the new management celebrates with a banquet, but Eric and the techie, Molly, realize they're trapped. The place has become a fortress, and they need to find a way to escape. Meanwhile, the investigation into the Keep America Human group is making headway. Jason and Andy discover a video of the masked figures and, thanks to a pair of cowboy boots, suspect that the former sheriff, Bud, is the dragon, the group's leader. Sookie goes to get the story straight and ends up knocked out and kidnapped by Bud and his partner, Sweetie. She wakes up tied next to an unconscious Hoyt and discovers the true mastermind is Sweetie, who has hated freaks ever since her husband left her for a shifter. The cavalry arrives in full force. Sam shifts into a pig to save Sookie from being killed. Andy shoots and kills Bud, and Luna transforms into a dog dog to hunt down Sweetie. In parallel, Terry finally resolves the Ifrit curse. He confronts Patrick, and with a little help from Arlene and her hairpin, Terry kills his former army buddy, paying the blood debt. Eric's escape plan goes completely wrong. Bill, who had been pretending to be on his side the whole time, hands him over to Salome on a silver platter. The elevator door opens to reveal the trap. Eric, furious, calls Bill a traitor, and Bill, with utter calm, replies that he did it for him. You have been chosen by Lilith. Sookie is trying to relax at home when the doorbell rings. It's Mike Spencer, who shows up with a weird line about wanting her body. Before she can process the bizarre come-on, he bares his fangs. Sookie, who's no fool, shoots him, but the bullet doesn't even faze him. As he grabs her, she uses chopsticks from her Chinese food to stab him in the back. Goodbye, Mike. Meanwhile, at the Authority, the mood is apocalyptic courtroom. Molly, the hacker, is executed with her own invention and melts into a puddle of goo. Far away, Hoyt gets out of the hospital and drops a bombshell on his mother. He's moving to Alaska. His mom freaks out, but his mind is made up. And speaking of new beginnings, he calls Jessica and Jason for a farewell chat at Merlotte's. His request is heartbreaking. He wants Jessica to glamour him into completely forgetting both of them. Devastated, she grants his wish, erasing the memories of the man she once loved.
You were my first love. You'll forget about Jason. Forget he ever existed.
At Fantasia, the new sheriff Elijah is pressuring Pam and Tara to make more money and create new vampires. But Tara, showing she's learned from the best, comes up with a brilliant plan. She pretends she failed to turn ginger, luring Elijah into a trap. When he gets close, Tara decapitates him with a sword.
She's got a pulse.
No one fucks with us in our house, she says, as Pam looks on with immense pride. To wrap it up, Sookie and Jason discover their grandmother was a master of hiding things. The real clue was in a secret compartment under her bed, an ancient scroll. They take it to a Fae expert who reveals its twisted contents. It's a contract promising the first female Fae-blooded heir of the Stackhouse family to a certain Mr. Warlow. And guess who the current heir is? That's right, Sookie. Bill is having a heart-to-heart with Lilith's ghost, who basically tells him, "You are the chosen one." But he walks away like, "Nah, I'm good," leaving the ancient vampire hanging. Jessica, who is nobody's fool, senses the cult-like vibe and hatches a plan to escape and warn Jason about Russell. She tells Bill she's going to turn Jason into a vampire so they can be together, and surprisingly, Bill falls for it. Meanwhile, Eric manages to snap Nora out of her Lilith-induced trance, and the two plan their escape. The breakout begins with chaos. An army general shows up to demand answers, and Eric, losing his patience, breaks the man's neck in front of everyone. The Authority panics, and Eric and Nora use the confusion to make a run for it. Jason's turning scene is pure cinema. The guards lead him and Jessica to a grave. She pretends to bite his neck, and as the guards start shoveling dirt, Jason pulls out a gun with wooden bullets and takes out both vampires. Problem solved. Far away, Sookie becomes the leader of the Fae resistance, trying to convince everyone to fight Russell. The fairy elder confirms her destiny is tied to someone named Warlow, and right on cue, who shows up to crash the party? Russell himself. Jason unwittingly leads the villain straight into a trap, except the plan goes a little wrong. Russell, who is ridiculously fast, drains the fairy elder. By drinking her blood, he gets a sinister upgrade. He can now see the Fae's secret hideout and moves in for the kill. The Fae are trying to hold Russell back with their light powers, but the guy is a brick wall. And when all seems lost, who emerges from the shadows? Eric. He seizes the distraction and stabs Russell. Game over for the show's most iconic villain. Steve Newlin watches his boyfriend turn to dust and runs off screaming. Meanwhile, the crew assembles a dream team to invade the Authority headquarters and save Bill from himself. It's like a supernatural Ocean's 11, with Sookie, Eric, Tara, and Jason armed to the teeth. The craziest scene happens on live TV. Luna, disguised as Steve Newlin, shifts back to her true form in front of the cameras, outing shifters to the world. Rosalind, one of the chancellors, freaks out and attacks, but Sam, who was disguised as a fly, flies into her mouth and boom! He shifts back into a human inside her, exploding the vampire from within. Disgusting and brilliant. The raid on the Authority is a success. They free Pam and Jessica, and Pam and Tara's reunion is sealed with a cinematic kiss. But the joy is short-lived. A traumatized Jason breaks up with Jessica, telling her he can't be with her because she's a vampire. In the final confrontation, Bill reveals he's been playing 4D chess all along. He tricks Salome into drinking blood laced with silver. Goodbye, Salome. Then, he ignores ignores Sookie and Eric's pleas and chugs the entire vial of Lilith's original blood. The result is bizarre. Bill melts into a pool of blood, leaving everyone in shock. But as Sookie starts to cry, the puddle begins to bubble, and from it, a new Bill is reborn, covered in blood, with demonic fangs. He's a super-powered, terrifying new version of himself. Here we dive into the mind of Billith, the supercharged new version of Bill. After drinking the blood of the original vampire Lilith, he got an upgrade. He can now see Sookie's Fey light pouring out of her mouth. It's like a built-in supernatural detector. Eric and Sookie bolt when they see Bill die and regenerate from a pool of blood, like a T-1000 from Terminator. They try to escape in the elevator, but the new Bill starts tearing the authority building apart, trapping them. Sookie uses her powers to light up the shaft, and Eric finds an escape route. Meanwhile, Jason, Jessica, Tara, Pam, and Nora escape down the stairs. Luna, carried by Sam, is too weak to go on. She makes Sam promise to take care of Emma and dies right there in a heartbreaking scene. The whole group reunites in a stolen SUV and floors it. On the radio, Governor Truman Burrell declares war on vampires, a curfew, the closure of vampire-owned businesses, and the cherry on top, he orders humans to arm themselves with wooden bullets. The news pisses Pam off, and she starts arguing with Nora. Eric stops the car and drops the bombshell. Nora is his sister. Pam feels completely left out, betrayed that she knew nothing. Later, Jessica starts to feel sick. Bill is calling to her, and it's not a normal call. It's like a summons from the devil himself. She vomits blood on Eric and collapses, convulsing. A desperate Sookie decides to take her to Bill. When they get there, Eric and Nora try to kill Billith, but the guy is on another level. Sookie plunges a stick to his chest, but to everyone's surprise, Bill pulls it out like it's a toothpick. Jessica, seeing he's no longer the same, defends her maker and tells everyone to leave. Warlow appears, emerging from a portal of light, drenched and bearing his fangs. At the same time, Jason, who is driving, nearly crashes his car, but the stranger who gave him a ride reappears and stops the vehicle with magic. The guy reveals himself. He's Niall, their Fey grandfather. Jason doesn't believe him, but Niall proves it by sharing some of his embarrassing childhood stories. Over at Fantasia, Tara is screaming in pain. She's been shot with a new kind of bullet, packed with silver and UV light. Basically, a terror round for vampires. Eric manages to pull it out and realizes the humans are taking this war seriously. Meanwhile, Bill is having a breakdown. He can feel the pain of other vampires being torn and has a vision of Lilith herself. She tells him a tyrant is rising and that he must complete her work. Sookie, for her part, finds a handsome, injured man in the woods. His name is Ben, and surprise, he's also part Fey. She takes him home to tend to his wounds. Jessica is with Bill when, still in a trance, he uses his mind to contort a blood donor's body in impossible ways, draining her until only a dried husk remains. The scene is pure horror. Niall goes to Sookie's house and drops the bombshell. Their bloodline is Fey royalty. Sookie is a princess, and Jason, well, the gene skipped him. Niall explains that there's a power in their family capable of creating a deadly ball of light for vampires. At the end, Bill has another vision, and this one is chilling. He sees Jessica, Tara, Eric, Pam, and everyone we care about trapped in a chamber, about to be burned by the sun. He's in shock and whispers, they're all going to burn. Eric is glamoring the governor's daughter, Willa. He discovers she's a daddy's girl, and kidnaps her to use as a bargaining chip. He takes her to Fantasia, where Pam and Tara are not at all happy about their new guest. A desperate Willa tells Eric about a secret camp where her father tortures and studies vampires. And speaking of torture, Steve Newlin is in that very camp. He gets an unexpected visit from his ex, Sarah Newlin, who is now one of the leaders of the anti-vampire movement and plans to eradicate the entire race. Meanwhile, Bill tells Jessica about his apocalyptic vision. Later, in a crisis of faith, he decides to test if he can walk in the sun. Spoiler, he can't. He bursts into flames instantly and barely makes it back inside, completely shaken. Niall, the Fey grandfather, finds the Fey club destroyed, with blood everywhere. He learns it was Warlow and has to put Claude, the last survivor, out of his misery. The scene is heavy. The tension escalates when Bill goes to Sookie's house and demands her blood to create a synthetic version that would make him immune to the sun. Sookie tells him to get lost, and a furious Bill declares that she is dead to him. He even uses his powers to throw Jason against a wall, causing him to hit his head again. Al Sid's pack attacks the Vampire Unity Society, killing almost everyone. In the chaos, Sam, shifted into an owl, manages to rescue Emma. In the end, Nora shows up snooping around Sookie's house, and Jason, upon seeing her, simply passes out again. The poor guy's brain has turned to scrambled eggs. Ben helps Sookie carry a passed-out Jason to the couch. He's in bad shape, and she knows only vampire blood will fix it. While Sookie calls for an ambulance, Ben makes a risky decision. He rips off his bandage, bites his own arm, and reveals he's a vampire, healing Jason with his blood. Outside, Niall is cornering Nora, demanding to know everything about Warlow. She tells him Warlow is Lilith's progeny, the first vampire, and was supposedly the one who destroyed her. But the scent of Niall's blood distracts her. He throws her aside and she ends up captured by the anti-vampire police. Sookie returns to find Jason good as new. Ben plays dumb, claiming he just woke up, but Sookie is already suspicious. Her suspicion grows when she finds a drop of Ben's blood and uses her fey magic to test it. It's Warlow's blood. She sets a trap, inviting him to a dinner with a special ingredient, colloidal silver. Meanwhile, the town is in chaos. Eric discovers that Tara has been hiding Willa, the governor's daughter, and decides to turn her into a vampire to blackmail her father. Pam is disgusted by the idea and ends up getting captured herself. Andy's 4 fey daughters, who read Terry's mind and discovered his traumas, undergo a bizarre transformation. They age into teenagers overnight, steal a car, and go out drinking.
Holy fuck, look at my boobs. Quiet, Dad's gonna hear you. Look at my boobs. Mine are pretty.
Girls got ID?
Jessica lures the girls to Bill's house, where he drains one of them for an experiment, but the blood proves to be unstable. To close out the night, Niall and Jason also figure out that Ben is a fey vampire hybrid and go after him to kill him. Bad idea. Warlow neutralizes Niall and glamours Jason. At dinner, Sookie's trap fails and the two end up making out on the couch, but just when she thinks he's let his guard down, she ignites a ball of fey light and calls him by his name, Warlow.
Get the fuck off me or die.
Sookie reveals she knows everything. Ben is Warlow. She threatens him with her fey magic, but he drops a bombshell. Her parents were the ones who wanted to kill her, and he saved her. Sookie doesn't believe him and attacks, but his wound heals instantly. Suddenly, Bill appears. He felt Warlow's pain, and to everyone's surprise, commands him as if he were his maker. Powerless to resist, Warlow is forced to follow him. Meanwhile, at Bill's house, it's chaos. Jessica, high on fey blood, has killed Andy's daughters and is completely out of her mind. Andy arrives to find his daughters dead, but realizes one is still breathing and saves her with vampire blood. To make matters worse, Eric and Tara let themselves be captured to rescue Pam, only to discover the governor's camp is a house of horrors. Eric is forced to play a vampiric version of the Hunger Games, while Pam undergoes bizarre therapy. Speaking of bizarre, Jason ends up sleeping with Sarah Newlin. The mood is cut short when Jessica arrives, crying with guilt. Sarah, furious, kicks Jessica out and turns her over to the anti-vampire police. To save his ex, Jason decides to infiltrate the organization. Sookie, desperate for answers, asks Lafayette to contact her parents. The seance goes horribly wrong. She has a vision and discovers Warlow was telling the truth. Her parents were going to kill her to save her from him. To complete the tragedy, her father's spirit possesses Lafayette and tries to drown her. At the camp, Governor Burrell forces Eric into a fight to the death, and his opponent is none other than Pam. Lafayette, possessed by Sookie's father, is drowning her. Bill, sensing the danger, releases Warlow to save her. Warlow arrives in a flash, saves Sookie, and expels her father's spirit from Lafayette's body. Meanwhile, at the camp, Eric and Pam refuse to fight. Instead, they team up and attack the guards, but they are separated again. Bill tries to call Warlow back, but Sookie is faster. She grabs his hand and they teleport to the Fey realm. Believing the vampire apocalypse has begun, Bill asks to be drained of his blood to find Lilith. He drinks the only sample of Warlow's blood, and suddenly can walk in the sunlight. His first stop is Governor Burrell's mansion, where he kills all the guards and the governor himself. In Bon Temps, a desperate Arlene hires a vampire to glamour Terry and erases memories of the war. The plan works, and Terry is happier than ever, but the happiness is short-lived. The friend he had hired to kill him fulfills their agreement, and Terry dies in Arlene's arms. At the camp, Jason successfully infiltrates and discovers Sarah Newlin is in charge of bizarre experiments, forcing Jessica to participate. Eric also makes a terrible discovery. The camp is contaminating True Blood with hepatitis V, a fatal virus virus for vampires. He manages to escape with Willa's help, taking an already infected Nora with him. Far from all this, in the Fey realm, Sookie and Warlow finally give in to their feelings. He tells her she's the only thing he doesn't regret and that they can live together forever. After a heartfelt conversation, she feeds him her blood, he feeds her his, and the two share a moment of passion that makes the entire realm glow. Eric discovers that true blood is being laced with hepatitis V, not just at the camp, but for public sale as well. It's like finding out your favorite pizza place uses plastic cheese. With no time to waste, he escapes with Nora in his arms, hitching a ride on a truck full of contaminated true blood. Meanwhile, Willa, disguised as a nurse and using a hand to open doors, gross, warns Pam about the tainted blood. Pam's advice is clear: only tell Tara and Jessica so they don't tip anyone off that they're in on the plan. Eric arrives at Bill's mansion with a fading Nora, begging him to save her, since he's basically a god now. But Nora refuses to drink Lilith's blood, and Bill, surprisingly, respects her decision. Elsewhere, Sarah Newlin finds Governor Burrell decapitated and comes up with a brilliant plan. She claims he's working from a secret location and seizes control of everything, ready to spread the virus. While the world is on fire, Sookie and Warlow are having a romantic post-picnic in the Fey dimension, but Sookie hears Arlene's cries and returns to reality, only to find out that Terry has been killed. Shaken, she helps Lafayette investigate, and they find a $2 million life insurance policy in Terry's name, taken out 3 days prior. Plot twist: it looks like he planned his own death. At the camp, Jason tries to rescue Jessica, but she has already accepted her fate and only asks to see James. The two end up having a goodbye night in the conference room. To make Jason's situation worse, he's thrown into the female ward, where a vampire named Violet claims him as her personal snack. The episode ends in the most brutal way possible. Nora decomposes into a puddle of blood and goo in a desperate Eric's arms, while Bill simply watches the tragedy unfold. Eric, still covered in Nora's confronts Bill, who responds to his grief by levitating him and throwing him out of the house. It seems even God Bill's patience has its limits. Meanwhile, Sookie goes to collect on her favor from Warlow, who agrees to help save the vampires, but on one condition: Sookie must become his vampire Fey bride. She asks for time to think, unaware that Eric is spying on them from a distance.
Fucking eternity?
In the pack, Al Cid gets beaten by Ricky and loses his position as packmaster. Back in Bon Temps, Sam finds out Nicole is pregnant with his child, right at the moment Sookie shows up to confess her feelings, saying she thought they would end up together. Sookie's timing is terrible and the scene is painfully awkward. At the camp, Sarah Newlin discovers that the vampires know about the contaminated blood because her ex-husband, Steve Newlin, couldn't keep his mouth shut. As a result, everyone in the know, Pam, Jessica, Tara, Willa, Violet, James, and Steve himself, is locked in a circular white room, waiting for the sun to rise and turn them into vampire barbecue.
What? What do you know?
The situation gets even more bizarre when Sarah chases down the representative from the Yakunomo Corporation and kills her with her own high heel, smashing her head on the grate and thanking Jesus for it. Determined not to be anyone's bride, Sookie decides she will become the creature her parents feared so much. She calls Bill and arranges to meet, but Eric gets there first. He kidnaps Andy's Fey daughter Adeline, feeds on her, and then uses the energy to invade the Fey dimension and attack Warlow, leaving him almost completely drained. When Sookie and Bill arrive, they find her potential groom looking like an empty juice box.
Oh my god! Shit!
Eric.
At Terry's funeral, Sookie steps up to the pulpit to give Arlene a moment to collect herself. In doing so, she reveals to the entire town that she's a telepath, just so she can share a sweet story about how Terry had been in love with Arlene since the very first day. It was the reality show confession moment no one expected. On the other hand, we have Eric going full John Wick, storming the camp. He frees the vampires, rips off one of the doctor's jet and teams up with a nearly dead Jason, whom he saves with his blood. The carnage is absolute. Meanwhile, Bill follows the trail of destruction. The climax takes place in the circular room, where Pam, Jessica, and the others are about to meet the sun. Just as Sarah Newlin activates the mechanism to open the roof, Bill appears in full Superman mode, offering his Lilith-infused blood. Whoever drinks it can survive in the daylight. The group is euphoric, dancing in the sun for the first time. Eric, never one to miss a chance to be petty, stops Steve Newlin from drinking the blood and holds him in the sun until he turns to dust, hearing a final "I love you, Jason."
love you.
In the midst of the celebration, Jason corners Sarah but decides to spare her. Bill, however, isn't so lucky. Lilith's 3 bloody sirens appear to him, telling him his mission is over and his time has come. And to end with a gut punch, as all the vampires walk out happy and frolicking in the sun, Pam realizes Eric isn't there. She sees him from a distance, but he just stares at her for a moment before flying away, abandoning everything and everyone. Pam's desperate cry is heartbreaking.
Don't you dare leave me.
At the Bon Temps cemetery, Sookie watches Terry's funeral. Suddenly, Al Cid appears, and the two share a moment, with Sookie realizing he's deeper than he seems. But their conversation is cut short by a bizarre noise coming from Bill's house. They arrive to find a surreal scene. Bill, Jessica, Pam, Tara, and a crowd of newly freed vampires, all enjoying the daylight as if they're at a music festival. They strip down, dance to 1920s jazz, and burn their vampire prison uniforms. It's Woodstock for bloodsuckers. Violet, Jason's new and super possessive girlfriend, approaches Sookie. After a strange chat, she plants a few kisses on Sookie's lips and declares that they are now sisters. Okay then. Soon after, Pam and Tara hug Sookie, thrilled to be free. Watching the scene from afar, Bill looks deeply saddened. Meanwhile, Sookie goes to the Fey Plane to meet Warlow for their wedding, but she tries to negotiate. Instead of happily ever after, how about let's just date and see where it goes? Warlow is not a fan of this idea. He freaks out, slaps her, lifts her by the neck, and ties her to a tree. Prince Charming has turned into a psycho. Back in the real world, Bill realizes his superpowers are gone. He and Jessica decide they need to save Sookie. To do that, they need another Fey to open the portal, so Jason and Violet go to get Idolin from Andy's house. After much persuasion, the girl agrees to help. The rescue team arrives at the cemetery. Violet scares Idolin to force the portal open, and they storm the Fey Plane. Bill gets his ass handed to him by Warlow, but Violet manages to save Sookie. During the escape, Bill latches onto Warlow and they both tumble back into the real world. The fight continues at Sookie's house. Warlow takes everyone down, but Bill can't enter without an invitation. When all seems lost, Sookie's Fey grandfather Niall opens a portal in the bathroom, pulls Warlow through, and gives Jason the perfect opening to drive a stake through his heart.
Don't do this, please.
Get your hands up!
With Warlow's death, the effect of his blood wears off, and over in Sweden, Eric, who was casually sunbathing in the nude, begins to burn. 6 months later, the world has changed. Hepatitis V has become a pandemic. Bill has written a book and is now a vampire rights activist. Sookie and Al Cid are living together, and in Bon Temps, the new mayor Sam organizes an event to pair healthy humans with vampires, like a survivalist Tinder. But the party is interrupted by a horde of infected vampires, ready to ruin everyone's night. The party at Bellefleur's descends into total chaos with the Hep-V vampire attack. Sookie uses her light, Al Cid turns into a wolf, and Violet saves Jason from becoming vampire food. In the middle of the mayhem, Tara sacrifices herself to save her mother, getting killed by one of the infected. Several townspeople, including Arlene and Holly, are kidnapped. A mysterious whistle sounds and the vampires retreat, leaving a trail of death and destruction. The post-attack mood is heavy. Sookie, with her telepathy, hears the thoughts of everyone in town blaming her, calling her a fangbanger. Hurt, she walks away alone, ignoring Al Cid's calls. On her way, she literally trips over the body of a dead woman in the woods, but is too shaken to even care. Meanwhile, Pam is in Morocco, playing Russian roulette with wooden bullets to get information on Eric. She survives and gets a lead. Back in Bon Temps, Jessica is standing guard at Andy's house to protect Idolin. An infected vampire shows up, and to scare him off, Jessica bluffs, saying Idolin is hers. The trouble continues in town. Vince, an anti-vampire radical, starts forming a mob. Jason and Violet encounter the group, and the vampire threatens them into backing down, which angers Jason. Later, the two have a heated fight that ends with them having sex on the hood of his car. Elsewhere, Lafayette and James form an unexpected bond, and Lafayette lets the vampire feed on him. At dawn, the vampire menacing Idolin is still outside. Jessica, beginning to burn in the sun, is desperate. Idolin, seeing the danger, breaks her father's rule and invites Jessica inside. Jessica runs to the attic to keep from attacking the girl.
I'll fight you in!
Later, in what's left of the town, everyone blames Sookie for what happened. Fed up with being the punching bag, she stands up and yells that she can hear all their hateful thoughts. But despite that, she's the only one who truly understands vampires and can help find the kidnapped residents. Inspired by the discovery of the body in the woods, Sookie suggests they investigate the victim's town, St. Alice. Meanwhile, Vince's mob gains traction in Bon Temps. He outs Sam as a shapeshifter and convinces the town to arm themselves, raiding the police station and capturing Adeline and Wade. The rescue team, Sookie, Alcide, Jason, Andy, and Sam, arrives in St. Alice to find a ghost town, completely abandoned and with a mass grave full of bodies. It's a nightmarish sight.
Guys!
Sookie finds the dead girl's diary, Mary Beth, and starts reading. Her story is a dark mirror of Sookie's own, a waitress who fell in love with a vampire, Bill, and watched her life fall apart. Reading it leaves Sookie devastated. Back in Bon Temps, Letty Mae is convinced she can talk to Tara if she drinks vampire blood. She deliberately burns her own hand just to get a dose from Willa. High on the blood, she has a bizarre vision of Tara on a cross. In captivity at Fantasia, Arlene and the others discover that one of the infected vampires, Betty, was their children's teacher. They try to appeal to her human side, and Betty promises to help, but their hope is short-lived. While trying to free them, Betty dies from the virus, leaving everyone in a panic. Jessica, trapped in the attic, senses that Adeline is in danger. She manages to convince Andy that they need to work together to save her. At the same time, Sookie arrives home with Alcide. She tells him to take a shower, and as soon as he's distracted, she flees to Bill's house. She knocks on his door and asks a question that makes her plan clear. "Can you still feel my fear? If I got myself into some real deep shit, would you be able to feel me?" Sookie is preparing to be the bait, and to top it off, Pam finally finds Eric in France. But the joy is fleeting. He's lying on a couch, sick, with the dark veins of hepatitis V crawling up his chest. He barely reacts when Pam tells him Tara is dead and just wants to give up. The situation sends Eric into a flashback to 1986, when he was living it up with a human named Sylvie. In this flashback, Nan Flanagan shows up to chew Eric out for not following the authorities' rules and paying his vampire taxes. She warns that vampires need to integrate into society or they'll be doomed, but Eric, in his classic style, tells her to get lost. Pam is desperate, but Eric refuses to leave France because of Sylvie. Back in the present, Alcide gets home and can't find Sookie. His sense of smell leads him straight to Bill's house, and he kicks the door down. Sookie, meanwhile, is in the car with Bill, hatching a plan. Bill explains that he lost his connection to her because Lilith's blood reset him. For the plan to work, Sookie needs to drink his blood again so he can feel her. Meanwhile, Sam is ambushed by Vince and his vigilante mob. They kill the vampire who is protecting Sam, and Vince declares himself the new mayor. Sam shifts into an owl and escapes. Vince's crew also runs into Jason and Jessica. Mistress Fortenberry, still bitter about the whole Hoyt situation, shoots Jessica, who, to everyone's surprise, doesn't heal. Seeing this, Violet the woman's heart out in front of everyone. Sookie's big plan is simple. Be the bait. She cuts herself in the middle of the woods to attract the Hep-V vampires. The trap works, but Bill is overpowered. When all seems lost, Alcide and Sam show up and save the day. With help from Jason and the crew, they kill the infected vampires. But in the middle of the post-battle argument between Alcide and Bill, shots ring out from the woods. Alcide is hit in the head and dies instantly in a devastated Sookie's arms. Sookie calls Alcide's father, and Jason calls Hoyt to tell him about his mother's death. The saddest part, Hoyt, having been glamored, doesn't even remember Jason, politely thanking Officer Stackhouse for the call. Meanwhile, Eric and Pam are on a plane. Eric, very sick, decides he needs to see Willow one last time before he dies. This throws us into a 1996 flashback, where we learn the origin of Fantasia. The Magister punished Eric and Pam by forcing them to manage a cheesy video rental store in Shreveport. Years later, in another flashback, we see a young goth ginger pitch the idea of turning the place into a vampire club, only for Pam to glamour her and steal the idea. Classic Pam. Back in the present, Sookie uses her powers to read Holly's mind and learns that Arlene, Nicole, and Jane are alive, trapped in the basement of Fantasia. With this information, the group gathers at Bill's house to plan a rescue operation. And who shows up unannounced? Eric and Pam. Sookie is shocked to see Eric's condition. The rescue mission is total chaos. Eric can barely break through a wall, and Bill shatters it with a single single punch. They get inside, but Arlene has already been taken upstairs to be dinner. The situation gets worse when Vince's vigilantes attack Fantasia with Molotov cocktails, starting a three-way war. In the crossfire, Bill saves Eric's life and the rookie vampire Keith saves Arlene by giving her his blood. The battle ends with all the infected vampires dead, but with a trail of destruction, and to top it all off, Eric is found inside a van, feeding on the body of one of the vigilantes he just killed. After the battle at Fantasia, Willa confronts Eric and refuses to help him hunt down Sarah Newlin, but to get rid of him for good, she gives him a clue. Sarah's sister, who is also a vampire, lives in Dallas. Ginger, the club's fangirl employee, has a meltdown and demands to have sex with Eric before he dies, but is completely ignored. While Sookie is mourning Al Cid, Lafayette decides the best way to heal is to throw a party at her house, with one rule: no sad talk allowed. In the middle of the party, all sorts of drama unfolds. Andy proposes to Holly. Jessica finds James cheating on her with Lafayette, and for revenge, she ends up sleeping with Jason. The one who overhears everything and is not pleased is Violet, who seethes in silence. Far away, Eric and Pam infiltrate a Republican gala in Texas, dressed to the nines to find Sarah's parents. But the party is crashed by the Yakuza. Sarah's parents are killed, and just as the gangsters are about to grab her, Eric appears and just annihilates everyone in a fit of rage, even ripping off the gang leader's jaw. Back at Sookie's party, the mood sours completely. Nicole freaks out, saying everyone is crazy for partying after nearly dying, and Letty Mae, desperate for vampire blood to talk to Tara, stabs Willa. Lafayette drags her out as the party finally dies down. In the end, Sookie consoles herself with Al Cid's jacket, and we get the worst news of all. Bill, arriving home, notices the first dark vein on his chest in the mirror. He's also infected with hepatitis V. We find Eric and Pam about to become vampire barbecue. Captured by the Yakuza, they're in a room with giant windows, waiting for the sun to rise. Eric, ever the romantic, quips, "Our first sunrise together." But with 5 minutes to spare, a Japanese executive in a cowboy hat with a Texan accent shows up. This is Mr. Gus Jr., and he's not playing around. His company, which made True Blood, went bankrupt because of Hep-V, so he proposes an alliance. They help him find Sarah Newlin, the source of the problem, and in return, he won't let them turn to ash. Eric, stubborn as ever, insists that he gets to kill Sarah himself. With the deal struck, they set off on the hunt. Meanwhile, Bill discovers he has Hep-V too. He goes to a vampire specialist lawyer to sort out his will, but the waiting room is packed to the gills. The wait is hours, and when the lawyer finally sees him, she wants $10 million to expedite things. Bill, who no longer has the patience to wait for a microwave, loses it. He simply stabs the woman with a letter opener and, on his way out, impales her vampire assistant with a pencil. The guy is pissed. Jessica, who hears everything, is devastated to learn her maker is dying. And the blame? It all falls on Sookie. She remembers that during a fight with infected vampires, their blood splattered on her. Shortly after, Bill fed on her. The math is simple, and the result is devastating. She's the one who infected him. To make everyone's day even worse, Violet, Jason's psycho girlfriend, sets up a super romantic and super creepy scene for him. And just when he thinks he's rid of her, we find out she's kidnapped Adeline and Wade. This woman does not mess around. The hunt for Sarah Newlin begins with Eric, Pam, and Mr. Gus interrogating her sister Amber. But Eric, still sick and filled with rage, hallucinates that Amber is Sarah herself and the only lead they had. Pam is in shock, like, "You had one job." But Mr. Gus, the master of savage capitalism, already has a plan B. Instead of killing Sarah, they'll capture her and use her blood to create new blood, a cure that will make them billionaires. And Eric? He'll be the product's handsome celebrity spokesperson. Meanwhile, Bill is getting worse by the second, with the veins of the disease spreading faster than gossip in a small town. Sookie, desperate, decides to summon a miracle. She calls on her fake grandfather, Niall, who appears out of nowhere in her kitchen wanting spaghetti. Instead of a magical solution, Grandpa gives her a lecture on how death is natural and there's nothing to be done. Terrible motivational coach. Elsewhere in Bon Temps, Hoyt Fortenberry returns to town. But there's a catch. Jessica glamored his memories of her and Jason away. The reunion is super awkward, and to make matters worse, Jason is immediately into Hoyt's new girlfriend Bridget. It seems Jason's love life is an infinite loop of bad decisions. And speaking of bad decisions, Violet takes Adeline and Wade maid to a bizarre mansion filled with BDSM toys and prepares for a medieval torture session. She wants revenge, and the two teenagers have become her primary targets. The hunt for Sarah Newlin finally comes to an end. Eric finds her, and she, in a messianic fit, gives herself up with open arms. Just as Eric is about to finish her off, Pam points a wooden bullet gun at her own chest, stopping him from messing up the plan again. So Eric does the smart thing. He bites Sarah, heals instantly, and throws her to the Yakuza. Mr. Gus, the evil genius, reveals his true plan: dilute the cure so it's not permanent, forcing vampires to buy new blood for the rest of their lives. Basically, turning the cure into a monthly subscription service. Meanwhile, Violet is about to start her horror show with Adeline, Wade, and Jessica, whom she has also captured. As she ties Jason up and begins to monologue about how she's going to torture everyone, the door bursts open. It's Hoyt. Out of nowhere, he shoots Violet with a wooden bullet, and she explodes in a shower of Jason, relieved, lets out, "Nice shot, Bubba." With the cure discovered, Sookie rushes to tell Bill. They gather everyone and storm Fantasia, where Sarah is being held. Jessica confronts the woman who tortured her, and the tension is palpable. Eric and Pam agree to help. Bill, barely able to stand, approaches Sarah, the living antidote right in front of him. Everyone expects him to bite her and save himself, but in the season's most unexpected plot twist, Bill refuses. He looks at everyone and says he doesn't want the cure. What? Jessica is pissed at Bill, demanding to know why he refuses to feed on Sarah Newlin and cure himself of Hep-V. Bill is evasive, and Sookie accuses him of not even having a reason. He says he has accepted his fate, but Jessica counters that it only makes sense if there's no other choice. Pam, on edge, tells them to keep it down, worried about the Yakuza upstairs. Sookie jumps in, saying Bill's death isn't fate, it's suicide, and he's forcing everyone who loves him to suffer. Bill admits he's choosing to die, shocking everyone. Jessica tells him, "Fuck you, Bill," and turns her back. Sookie, feeling the same rage, slaps him and demands a reason. Bill can't explain, gets slapped again, and still has no answer. As Sookie goes for a third slap, Eric appears at vamp speed and stops her. He tells Bill to leave. Before he goes, Jessica demands that he release her as his progeny. Bill gives a speech about how proud he is of her and sets her free. He leaves, with Jessica and Sookie in tears.
As your maker, Jessica.
In a bizarre moment, Pam hugs Jessica to comfort her, but warns, "You get a single blood tear on my jacket, you're paying the dry cleaning bill." Later, Sookie and Jessica find Sam's trailer empty. He's left 2 letters. In his letter to Sookie, he explains he loves Nicole and won't choose Bon Temps over his unborn child, but that she can visit them in Chicago. Sookie, having lost another friend, breaks down in Jessica's arms. They then head to Belle Fleur's, where Arlene is trying to liven up the bar with a party, Field of Dreams style. If you build it, they will come. Jessica has a moment with James, who's now with Lafayette, and they make peace. Jessica leaves alone and seeks out Hoyt. She shows up at his house just as he and his girlfriend Bridget are arguing. Jessica says she came to explain why Hoyt doesn't remember her. Bridget freaks out and gives Hoyt an ultimatum. If he listens to the story, they're over. Hoyt apologizes to Bridget and leaves with Jessica, leaving the girl in tears. And who does Bridget call to pick her up? Jason. Meanwhile, Eric confronts Bill, who explains that he must die so Sookie can be free and have a normal life. Bill goes to Sookie's house to explain himself. He says Hep-V has made him feel more human and that he wants a natural end, like the rest of his family buried in the cemetery. He knows Sookie wants children and a normal life, and that will never happen as long as he's around. Then he drops the bomb. He asks Sookie to use her Fey light ball to kill him. This would not only give him a true death, but would also make her fully human, ending her vampire problems for good. Sookie is horrified and tells him to leave. Meanwhile, Eric and Pam hatch a brilliant plan. They free Sarah Newlin after making her drink Pam's blood so they can track her. Then, they trick Mr. Gus, the Yakuza boss, into entering Fantasia's secret tunnel and blow him up inside. Afterward, Eric intercepts and kills the Yakuza henchmen who were on their way to Sookie's. Jessica and Hoyt, now back together, visit Bill. Seeing that he's dying, Bill practically forces a marriage proposal, asking Hoyt his intentions. After an awkward moment, Jessica understands this is her maker's final wish, to see her married. The wedding takes place at Bill's house in a deeply moving ceremony. Sookie, for the first time, can hear Bill's thoughts as he fades, and she realizes how much he loves her and wants her to be happy. After talking with the Reverend, Sookie makes her decision. She meets Bill at the cemetery, next to his open grave. She tells him she can't give up being a fae, that it's a part of who she is. Bill understands. She then climbs into the grave with a broken piece of a shovel, which becomes a stake. She kisses him one last time, and when she hesitates, he places his hands over hers and impales himself, exploding into a pool of blood. Sookie, covered in his remains, cries and then begins to bury the coffin with her bare hands. Years pass. A commercial reveals that Eric and Pam have become filthy rich, selling new blood, the synthesized cure. On a Thanksgiving night, we see that life has moved on. Jason married Bridget and has 3 kids. Sam has returned for a visit with his family, and Sookie is pregnant, standing beside a bearded man who is her husband, whose face we never see. Everyone is happy at a big celebration. Everyone, that is, except Sarah Newlin. In the basement of Fantasia, Pam keeps her chained up, renting her out for a minute at $100,000 a pop for vampires to drink the cure straight from the source. Sarah, now insane, is haunted by the ghost of her ex-husband.